like the other
We're going
day.
live.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, no. I don't know. Like, it's very funny that Madonna, of all people, is the thing that got a sliver of right-wing Twitter's attention this last week. Because
it's
this
like
is...
the
Go
yeah.
ahead.
No, I was gonna say it's like the Dime Square people against like everyone else. It's
Well, I just find it funny because, like, I can remember in the early 2000s with, like, Whose Line Is It Anyway? And they would do the game called Props, and it would be like they'd take 2 traffic cones, and they'd be like, "Today we bury Madonna because of her giant fake breasts." And now it's like 40 years of entertainment, 40 years of all the goodness to pop culture, and then there are others that are like, "Nah, total prima donna gotta go. Like, let this be it." So... everything's political. The left was right. Welcome to the Digital Archipelago, kids. That's what's up.
Hey, did you tweet about it? I didn't see a tweet.
I'm doing it right now.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
But
But yeah,
there's so many, like I said, so many things like we can't even shake a stick at. There's like the skeleton Scott. I can never pronounce it. Skildings event.
I have no idea. I'm not British. I'm going to butcher it anyways, like good old Daniel Webster.
Yeah. And then there's like, yeah, there's so many things to talk about. Like what happened with, you know, like I think, I don't know, let's not talk about the Wagner stuff because honestly, like, if anything, I feel, and I know this is like Vatnik Cope, that like Russia came out pretty good in it because it's like, do you think like if this happened in America, well, I don't know, I shouldn't say that. Because like, I mean, while there's obvious comparisons to certain event that happened we can't mention, but no, I think like it's a non-issue, obviously, and there's probably something more behind the scenes going on it. But if you want to hear all of my takes on Prigozhin going insane, go to the War Report, Konstantin Ratelli's channel, where me, him, and GSP break it down for like almost 3 hours. And I believe it's one of his most viewed episodes of the War Report. So let's not talk about that. Unless you want, do you have a hot take on the
I don't. I was out at the Skildings event conference. I get a text at like 8 a.m. from TR Hudson, and he's like, "You picked a hell of a bad time to like not be on the air right now, to drop out." And then all of a sudden, like that evening around 9 o'clock, he's like, "I guess you didn't." So
you know what good takes on?
I don't have too much of a take on it now.
You know what really good takes?
Yes.
Okay, apart from Martyr Maid, apart from Daryl.
I was going to say he's got some of the best.
Yeah. Our good friend Oliver, our good friend Semi-Agog had like actually really great takes about like he was like I think he was probably like okay, if Stalin Frog was still around, peace be upon him, he would probably have the same takes, but he had a really like he was the first to actually have a perceptive analysis of how nothing of this event makes any sense. And that either okay, I think my only take from that's different from the War Report would be that I'm less inclined to believe, and I know this is like the pro-Russian take, I'm less inclined to believe it was like an inside job because this like the Duran line, the Duran narrative, along with other people like Brian Beletic of the Military Summary channel, is that basically it was a response to Prigozhin having having his shit taken from him by the Kremlin, because you can't have like a mercenary businessman with no military experience having that much power over the front line of this SMO, right? So okay, yeah, it's a war. Okay, I know I shouldn't call it special military operation. Just special military operation has a ring, comes off the tongue better. But yeah, okay, it's a war. It
sounds a lot better when you're trying. Well, I don't know. It's like an authorized use of military force. It's not a war.
It's like a North Korean type of...
Well, that's what America does. I mean, that's the point. Yeah.
Was the Iraq... Well, wasn't like Iraq...
We did not formally declare war. We signed a bill into law that says it is an authorized use of military force in response to the September 11th attack. So...
Because only Congress can issue an act of war, right?
It can issue a declaration, yes.
Yeah, declaration of... They did that for World War II after...
That's the only time we've declared war. I mean, since World War II, that's the last time we declared war.
It's because it was morally we were the good guys. That's why. You know? But
yeah, funny how all the good guys won every single war.
Yeah, it's like if you look at history, like beyond the 18th and 19th century, it's funny how the good guys always win, right?
Yeah.
Like no war in human history was ever won by any bad guys, right? Anyways, so of course, like Lukashenko is skeptical of Prigozhin being there, and Prigozhin will probably make money by basically, selling whatever Wagner troops he has left to African warlords and payment for their services. And of course, it came out that the Russian government was essentially bankrolling Wagner, that it was closer to like a Foreign Legion deal than not. So, I mean, yeah, so Putin came out looking pretty good. And of course, another big news item. So, I don't know if you wanted to talk about the Prigozhin, but
I don't know if we'll have I think we'll see a complete fallout within the next month and a
yeah,
half.
yeah.
But again, my following of the war has actually been more of focusing on like trade and international shipping and logistics.
Yeah. And of course, the big news is that Mystery Grove has fallen. RIP to Mystery Grove. Press F in the chat.
Yes, press F. Mystery
Yeah.
Grove is gone. Although I liked the tweet that came out that Pat showed on his show yesterday that like, oh, it's such a shame, Mystery Grove, you're disappearing. And it's just like, you never bought any one of my books. That's why I'm going away. Oh, farewell,
that
old
was
friend.
from Close My Eyes. Yeah, that was from Content Enjoyer.
Absolutely
Good
great
mutual
tweet.
of mine. Listen, I don't endorse everything Content Enjoyer posts, but like he's a great account. Even if I can't like certain things because of optics. Close My Eyes is the best account.
At Chud Close My Eyes. Great account. I just simply said see you, Space Cowboy, which for some reason took off with too many views than it should have. It's really dumb.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a shame. I prefer my norm posting, This just in, bookseller Mystery Grove has announced that he is retiring, and his account will one day be no more. Sources close to Mystery Grove say he won't be truly gone, as he's starting his own Shake Shack franchise.
No, but the part that Mystery Grove, you saved it, the part at the end where you said like the future of the E-Right looks brighter than ever, and people were like, nope, not really.
Nope, not really.
Oh boy, we can't. It's like, when Pastor Manning said that one line about Obama, he's like, black people in America want to run. He's like, black people want to run America. We can't even run Harlem. It's like the E-Right wants to run America. We can't even run Times Square. I can't. I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say that.
We can't even have like proper e-girls in this space. We're not going to do anything. The Mystery Grove film list has been preserved. There are numerous accounts, archives that have it. It is safe. It is secure. Film cells are standing back and standing by to watch the entirety of the Mystery Grove film list.
I should do that one day.
It's a really good list. I've watched most of the movies that are on that list, and I was so glad that he kept the Duelists on his list, because that movie is certified Kino. And I wholeheartedly want it. Yes, the whole Mystery Grove list of films is on Letterboxd as well. I think Kino Corner tweeted that out, saying it's on Letterboxd.
He would tweet it out. But Chuck Close My Eyes, go and follow him. He's a great account.
We can't even run Twitter. So true.
Yeah, we can't even run Twitter. Exactly. So, no, but I think that, like, there's something that Nightmare Vision said. And, okay, by the way, guys, that's not him in that picture. I hope, like, people know that. But anyways, there's something that he said last Night Owls where he's like, I can't wait for 2024 to happen sooner enough, because the content drought will probably, like, the infighting will probably evaporate, because then we have to focus on the election, and the whole world has to focus on the American election. It's very interesting how, like, there's one take I remember before. Oh, I shouldn't even mention him, but like, there was one take that Kanye had. I think it was on Lex Friedman before Lex did the whole post of like, Kanye hurt my heart by doing what happened end of last year. Do you remember that tweet? He's like, Kanye hurt my heart. And I'm like, what a fucking guy. There was one take Kanye had where he's like, I think the American election, and this is something that I understand, like, as an artist would say this. He's like, I think the American election should only be like cut off. There could be like some way you could cut the rest of the world off from like the debates and from like knowing about the American election. He's like, this should be something that only we care about. This should be our thing, right? And I'm thinking like America was isolationist for so long, but now that America's become this sort of like global rhizome that is like infused throughout the world, like as you can attest by that one viral video of like this Chinese TikTok of like this Chinese business influencer with a pottery factory doing all of like the corporate like motivational shit.
We can play games while we're at work. We have a little gym, and I'm like, at a certain point, I don't know if the Chinese are just parodying or they're seriously on the same cultural track for decline. It's a mess. The U.S. should purchase people's right to vote for them for like $10K per. Oh, we spend a lot more per candidate to buy their vote, good sir. And sometimes you can even do it for free. See, the nice thing about how this all works is that you can buy someone's right to vote by simply asking if you're willing to fill in their mail-in ballot for them, especially at elderly homes. This is the way that you can do it. You don't need it for $10K a year. This is like way cheaper. People don't know this, but ballots are free. I've got like 500,000 ballots in my office. Like, that's just how it works.
Well, like Titania at the TMV, she makes only like what's the minimum wage in America? Here it's $15, but
it depends. But the federal minimum wage, I think they upped for like federal employees. I think it's but no, it's DMV. So I guess it's state by state. So I guess $7.25 an hour is technically what it is. But like, if I recall correctly, I'm just gonna look up the Texas DMV thing because like Texas DMV salary, because those people.
Well, Texas got pilloried pretty hard in the midterms.
They actually make $18.31 an hour.
Yeah.
But
Trump won Texas in 2020, did he not?
Yes, narrowly.
Yeah, barely. Yeah, barely.
Like this state's purple.
Oh yeah, but
if not outright blue.
Yeah, but I think like what's very interesting is that and please donate those super chats because I see that Fishy Frenzy is upping the super chats. But what's very interesting is like that notion that like almost like a religious, I wouldn't say religious, but almost like a sacred like thing in America, which has become like this global spectacle, that Kanye would say that you would need to like rein it in to be like a wholly in-house American thing that the world shouldn't have the right to gawk at. But I think like the global demographic is sort of like becoming a part of the American spectacle of elections, and Trump really sealed it. Like, I mean, you could be like, it, like I said before, it makes more sense for someone like us in Canada, the few right wingers that were supportive of Trump here in Canada, than like, the rest of the world. I mean, listen, we love her and all that, like nothing but respect. But it is kind of wild, like I remember like the daily Amy Therese updates on the American election. It's like, but then that's understandable in some ways. But it is kind of funny how that notion that a country should be able to have a sacred right to the point where there's a hiddenness implied, right? So again, this is going back to like Agamben, like with profanation. Profanation is putting it into common use. And so America like becoming this like spectacle, like a whole year's worth of spectacle around the election is crazy, right? Like, and even the UK has a little bit of this.
Not like that's the thing that kills it though, is just because like it is a matter of being Rome. It's a matter, right. And I don't, but like a very gay Rome. But it is a spectacle in which like countries have to pay attention because this is, like most of the world's geopolitical and economic events come out of it. The U.S. is a global hegemon. We have to pay attention. Because, like, if you wanted to sit down and watch the debates for, say, like, I guess in a few years, so, like, I guess no later than December 2024 will be the next upcoming election, because they have elections every 5 years. Yeah. You can watch that. It is going to be the most boring thing you will ever watch. And I can attest to this because I watched them last election, and they're really bad. And so, yeah, like, I don't care. Like, you know what elections are interesting? Like, elections of small, tiny, like, local elections in those kind of countries. Because, like, those are regular people. The closer you get to the chuds running for office is when elections in other places get entertaining. But, yeah, the U.S. election is, like, the West's, like, coliseum of watching these guys and chariot horses and whatnot try and kill each other in the primary. Tell you
They
what,
should put him
man.
in a barbed wire cage.
We're literally I plan to cover these things live on air. I want to react to these things.
I'll be there right next to
Because
you.
that it's gonna be Kino content.
Yeah, man.
Gio and I should set it up. We'll go to it in person. We'll see if we can get one of those nice CNN audiences or whatever, those cheap seats, and we'll record it live. It'll be great.
Man. That's how I live tweeted the Peterson versus Zizek debate.
I almost bought tickets to that.
Oh man.
I have seen Jordan Peterson in person. Like, I don't have pictures with him, but I did go to one of his talks. It was great. But that's so long ago.
Yeah, man.
What a crazy time to think about.
I was a small account back then.
I wasn't even on Twitter back then. It was back in college days for me, and it just kind of tells you how crazy things have like for obvious reasons. Like, Jordan Peterson's on a whole different set of drugs, and
Yeah.
I don't know what he's on, but I like what he's talking about only because he's just like he was talking about like the transgender thing, and then he like quote tweeted Bruce Jenner and was like, "Yes, your very public and welcomed transition definitely didn't have an impact on this whatsoever." And I was like,
"Did you see Jenner? Did you see Caitlyn Jenner replying to Nightmare
Vision? Yeah, together we will make America great again, Caitlyn."
And then I posted the Chernobyl like. Oh, I love that gif, man. That was so great. That was such a moment of solidarity. Jay Ford is right. We'll get to that super chat, but
we will. It's been a crazy.
But please send those super chats. I mean,
I guess we'll add to it because I know other people have definitely had said it. Also, I had the pleasure of meeting Jay Ford again this last weekend. It was nice.
Oh, he was
him.
at the Skildings event.
Yeah, he was there at the first one too. The running meme is that every time Jay Ford asked a question, he had like a funny introduction to himself. You know, like, "Hey, Jay Ford, question appreciator here," and then he'd ask his question to the speaker.
Did Jay Burden go?
Jay Burden was there, and I met him, and he looks a lot like Cillian Murphy, and that was dead on. Like, he was the Anglo-American version of Cillian Murphy.
Like 28 Days Later Cillian, or like Oppenheimer Cillian?
28 Days Later Cillian.
I knew it. Yeah.
Jay Burden's only like 20-something. Yeah, he's only 24. So it's been a delight. So yeah, it's crazy to think about because someone else had mentioned it in the super chats.
Look at Fishy Frenzy. Nightmare Vision's more likely to be pictured next to Caitlyn Jenner than Private.
That's so true. So true.
Oh,
that is the red carrot.
Follow Frenzied Fish on Twitter. I mean, I know it's probably unoptical to follow Frenzied Fish, but he had this one post today that I found funny where it was like a soy jack getting his head blown off, and like Giga Chad's like, "You know why I did this? Because I'm a beast of the streets," or something like that. It's like, but anyways, yeah, go ahead. You met Jay Burden. Did he bring his wife or?
No, he did not. Although I have to chuckle because last year there were, and I have to clarify this when I say it, there were 2.5 women at the event last year.
Yeah, Mrs.
Mrs. Radlib, a very young woman in her early 20s, and Yiz the eunuch, who is an intersex person.
Yeah.
Although she, by all accounts, is a woman. So really,
imagine if you get e-girls next year because I'm coming there.
That'd be hilarious.
Yeah, I'll bring Catherine with me.
Oh boy, that would.
I'll bring gifts and Given. Like I'll just there'll be like a parade of e-girls down the street.
Well, finally they can get married off then. But no, Mrs. Radlib was there, which she had given some impromptu remarks at the event like she did last year. And it's always good to hear from her because it's nice to have sort of a, just to have someone who offers like the homeschool mom living and working on a farm type deal. Like they made it. The Radlibs made it. Like that Mr. and Mrs. Radlib have it made. But,
yeah.
With that respect, it was interesting because that one woman from last year in 2022, she met someone at the event and now they're engaged. They came back and they're like, "Hey, we're engaged. We're getting married this year." So praise God for that. Apparently, if you do go bring women to these conferences, husbands and wives can be made from them.
Maybe we could see. This is why Bronze Age Shoddy should stop hanging around Meg Gold and those people. Should start hanging around the YouTubers. Maybe she'll go to Skildings and she'll find a husband there. That'll be. Maybe Jay Ford. Maybe.
What do you bring to the table? I bring a review of Bronze Age Pervert's Bronze Age mindset. Yeah, but can you like cook? No. Oh, sorry. I'm not too optimistic about the e-girl idea. Although I have to chuckle because I was telling Gio this before we went live. Like I had the weird parasocial moments, which I'm not people brought their event books from last year and were asking the speakers to like autograph it. People were asking questions about like your life and what you do. And I'm like, I don't know how to answer these fandom questions. Like, what the hell is this? But a lot of guys came up to me and were just like, thank you for introducing me to Geo. Like, and
Yeah,
it's just
that's
like,
crazy.
Geo's a bigger Twitter account than I am. I didn't introduce you to anybody. He's always been here.
You know what's funny? I actually told my lady friend to stop watching my content because I'm like, I don't want a parasocial thing. And then it's funny because I sent her that one screed I did on like that lesbian saying that only like lesbian sex is good or like non-exploitive. So I had this like thread on my Telegram, telegram.com/productions, where I talk about like dating discourse and all that. So it's funny, like she texts me, she's like, so you don't want me to watch your content because it's parasocial and that's bad. You want me, but also have this like, read this thread where it's like I'm implying that I'm such a men can be such selfless lovers, meaning I could be such a selfless. I thought it was funny. I was like, don't.
I think this partially explains your. I won't mention that on air. Never mind. That's a weird. I'm thinking of the tweet with Patrick Casey, where he says my only like weakness is that I screw too passionately.
Yeah. And then... Can I just read it on here? Would Patrick be terminally embarrassed?
Yeah, no, go for it. It's not like he watches the show.
So we made a meme of it like Giga Patrick, where he's like, my only flaw is I screw too passionately. And then I said in the group chat, I'm like, I said that, Patrick, I could imagine him as a, selfless, passionate lover, but he'd be totally stoic afterwards, kind of like a Ryan Gosling character when you think about it. And then the whole group chat just like exploded, and it was... Oh boy,
that's like half my reaction on this show. Mr. Layman, it's awesome, it's great. Mr. C, a layman, which I guess Mr. Catholic layman, but yeah, no, we have good times on this show regardless. But yeah, a lot of people were just like, Prude, thank you so much for introducing me to Geo. He's got like this great energy and I love being around him. And I'm just like, I'm glad. Like, I didn't know, I thought more people knew who Geo was, because like Geo's this giant e-celeb who's been here for forever.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a great time.
There you go. Did I let it? Well, I alluded to the fact that I may or may not be seeing someone, but that's, I'm not.
Oh, I mentioned that. People were like, well, why isn't Geo here? And I was like, oh, he's seeing a woman. And they're like, no way. And I was like, yeah, I'm not lying. Like, he's going to go see a woman. Although I'm partially worried, because when he said he was doing this, he was seeing a void. And I was like, oh no. We're going to shoot ourselves before we get right out of the gate.
Oh boy.
See, I don't know who you are, Phoenix, so I don't know if that's true or not. Unless you're that one gentleman who approached me, very like up in my face saying, I have more kidneys than you. And I was just like, well, no, it was like probably the most wholesome thing of the whole damn event outside of doing church service with like George Bagby. But no, he came out of like nowhere and then he pointed at me and he's like, I have more kidneys than you. It was just like very energetic. Oh, it is. Okay, wonderful. Well, that is you. Great. Wonderful. Yeah, no, it was a highlight because he's just like, I have more kidneys than you. And I was like, well, I have 3. This is a very public thing. And so he's had 2 transplants, but it was really nice to just meet him and discuss it. The scent was overall wonderful. It was definitely improved by the fact that Patrick Casey was there. So the perfume patriot was definitely improving the olfactory bits there. I also have more chromosomes than you. No, I mean, there were some really cold takes, but nothing that made me think that you have Down syndrome.
Drop the chromosome. Like, yeah.
I think the cold's so bad, you get an extra chromosome.
I think ZHP replied to someone like that. It was that TikTok of like the Downy girl, the Down syndrome girl, and he's like, she could lose chromosomes. I'm like, oh my god, that's terrible. No, but listen, guys, I'm not a fake cell yet. But of course, I'm a gentleman.
We're waiting on
it. Tell. Well, like, here's the thing. Like, she's a private person, so I'm just gonna say, like, it's not it's not something that'll be intersecting with my online career. Put it that way, and you know what I mean. So it's better if it's just those two worlds don't intersect. That's all I'm gonna say. But anyways, Yeah, it's really weird. I mean, my world has been turned upside down at the point I turned 30. Book deal, finding someone. So it's like, yeah, it's what it's crazy, Um, but anyways, we were going to talk about. Did you want to talk about Pedro? Or we're not done with the Skildings event yet?
No, I mean,
Um,
I'm gonna give a full breakdown of the event on Sunday, so
yeah,
do not worry. If you want to hear more, this Sunday will be the time to do it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But so yeah, no, everything was great there. I do have to chuckle at the fact that like it's because like the last year's event on February in 2022 was like days before the war started, and then this event, they had the whole
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you went.
The Wagner
Yeah,
thing. And I joked about it last year. I said people, because I was talking about like digital deracination, and I was just like, yeah, we're going to be tweeting about Russia and Ukraine until the bombs drop, and then like the war broke out like 5 days later, and then we had the whole Wagner thing right after, like while we were at the event. So it's just like, man, every time we have this event, something awful goes down in Russia.
Oh,
So it's just very funny. But no, I mean that was all. I'll cover more of it in depth on Sunday, including what some of my favorite speeches and things like that. It was a
yeah.
really good time. But I do have to chuckle because we did miss the submarine discourse.
Oh boy. Oh,
I don't actually have too many things to add other than I'm very glad that it was instant and
yes.
relatively painless, because drowning is one of the few drowning is the way I do not want to go.
Oh yeah.
I am comfortable with dying, my soul is prepared, but boy oh boy, I would not want to drown.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing the takes I saw that were pretty good was that, when these leftoids were like comparing it to like migrant boats. First of all, Europe spends countless millions of dollars trying to like help these migrant boats. Okay, and there's a reason. And so Thule had a great thread on this about how like these NGOs that are basically propped up by the American security state. Very funny that way that all of them, they speak perfect English. That they essentially are the ones that bring these migrants over, and that they knew about this latest one where I think like 300 people died. They knew about it before the authorities. Really curious that way. But I noticed like the takes about like, well, when it comes to exploration, when it comes to like Faustian spirit of like you know, trying to like traverse the beyond, is that not more noble than just like this, massification of life? And here's the thing, who really, in my opinion, apart from like, okay, we can talk about the American wars that have led to the migrant crisis, but who really has, redacted those migrant people on those boats? It's those NGOs, because they promised them basically the European welfare state and no authorities and housing and everything when they get over to continental Europe. Those people, they have blood in, like the Ash Sackers of the world that talk about, we spent so many millions to save these people on the submarine, but not the migrants. Those are the people that have blood in their hands. But for any like right-wing radical that like wants to like, anyway, I saw the memes about the orcas, okay, I saw the Fed posting. But really,
Multiracial white supremacy or multi-species white supremacy is a real threat in this country.
yeah, yeah. No, but it's those liberal NGOs. Those are the people that are doing this, because it's like, I mean, this is obvious. It's obvious. I mean, I don't have to say it. You know what I mean? But it's just that's the only like real take I can say. And it's not like the whole like the libs are the real racist thing. I'm just saying that they facilitate this crisis. It's the same. It's the same as it's the same like that sort of WeWork H-1B visa poaching guy from that video in Canada here. Did you see that about like, in Canada, the workforce is going to increase, and all these like neoliberals, like no opinion, are like, this is great. Canada is like going to let in 100 million, the dream of 100 million migrants with H-1B visas. And that Canada's going to have this amazing tech sector. And it's like, you don't get it. Like, that's beyond the point. And I know I sound like, I don't have to go after, I don't have to go over like 2015, like Wignat talking points, but people don't, okay, first of all, apart from the racial thing, okay, let's bracket the racial thing. Canada cannot accommodate those people. We already struggle It's impossible to get a doctor, family doctor.
You have half of Ukraine in your country.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Right now, yeah, half of Ukraine is, well, not half, but like, yeah,
I'm being somewhat hyperbolic, but I
yeah,
think
yeah.
what
But I know
the
it's
point
significant.
I'm getting at the point that like Philip Cafaro made. And Philip Cafaro, if you don't know who he is, he's a total shit lib, but he wrote a book I think in 2013. I don't know what year it was published. I have a copy of it called "How Many Is Too Many: The Progressive Case for Reducing Immigration to the United States." And
Mm,
funny enough, guess who he cites in there to talk about like social issues? He talks about Canada.
yeah,
And he talks about the fact that like if you bring too many people in at once, you fundamentally alter the social cohesion and order, and the nation falls apart.
yeah, exactly. Well, even Paul Gottfried talked about it in After Liberalism.
Yep.
But that's the thing. Like, you can't like already in Canada. Like, it's okay. I understand like the crime rate is lower with East Asians than with other migrants, but doubly so with Ukrainians. But it's like you have to realize the practicality of it. Like, Canada does not have the infrastructure that even America has to accommodate all of these people. Not that America in the coming years, I mean, already if you live in border towns like in Texas, like Prude, you know this, going through the
Oh yeah, I
Texas
know.
medical establishment yourself, like it's incredible. Like yeah, exactly. Donald Trump gaming. And the crime rate will follow. By the way, I mean, you can't have people with a totally radical different way of life and like have this magic dirt thesis. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. And I don't know, it's like we're stating the obvious here, but I'm just saying like it's a symptom of this like kitsch liberalism that like anyone can go anywhere and it's gonna stats boost the GDP. It's this marriage of progressive social values and like quote unquote, I know the term is sort of like so inane and superfluous it doesn't mean anything, but I use it. It's quote unquote neoliberalism in terms of economic policies, pursuing like kitsch liberal social progressivism. That's like the marriage in hell, essentially. Yeah, Donald Trump. It's not just that people don't look like me. It's just that it goes beyond the superficiality of just even like, oh, people don't look like me. It's, you know what I mean? Like, it's, and by the way, China, apparently they're going to face a demographic problem. Did you hear about this?
Yes, I covered it a little bit last Monday
Yeah.
actually, because this is a big part of Peter Zeihan's "The End of the World is Just Beginning," and he talks about the fact that China's about to face like one of the biggest demographic bubbles in the history of and like the history of China.
Yeah.
But the different, and we were talking about this at the event too. Like, it doesn't really matter about the demographics crisis or like the birth rate stuff in China, because like it doesn't matter how the population gets reduced naturally or artificially. Like, China's still China.
Yeah.
Like any haplogroup study of like the Chinese region has been more or less consistent for like the last 5,000 years, whereas you can't say the same anywhere else. So
Yeah. But in Canada, it really is like the global airport ideology. Um, and apparently, did you hear about this thing that happened? Like, I mean, I shouldn't mention it for optical reasons, but did you hear about that thing that happened in Waterloo?
no, I did not.
Yeah, where this like Chud Jack went into like he like literally looks like a Chud Jack, by the way. He went into like a gender studies class with
You do know the Chudjak is based off the El
a real,
Paso.
yeah,
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 okay. Just everyone jokes about the Chudjak thing, but I'm like, no, this is based off a real like criminal.
yeah, yeah. No, but I wanted to say it publicly just to like
Yeah.
optically, you know, um he went in there when he started like trying to stab people, but thank God nobody got hurt. But like, here's the thing, okay? Like, okay, as a person on the right in Canada, this is where I think Moldbug had probably one of the best takes about. Do you remember the Breivik essay from
Yes,
Unqualified?
about folk
Folk
activism.
folk activism, like it just like if you okay, here's the thing. Okay, if you these I know it's like funny to meme all that and like listen, I'm not counter signaling people, but it's funny to meme about this stuff and like you look at like these pride events or whatever. But when you like go out there and you're like this lone wolf and it just like it really just destroys any sort of political momentum to push back against, you know, because here's the thing, the average like the average like lib professor doing gender studies class, and like, yeah, it hasn't been like, listen, I've been through a gender philosophy class or two in my time, okay? And yeah, I know it's like libtard stuff, but those aren't really the people like, okay, you could say like, oh, the universities, yes, okay. Like we're going back to Sargon of Akkad circa 2015 arguments, like let's close down the gender studies departments to figure out what's going on. Okay, yeah, it's very funny. But I think like when like you can't really blame the average person because these are like totalizing structures. You know what I mean? Like these, and really what it just does, and you know what's going to happen. This is the same thing that happened here in Canada when it came to the Mark Lapine thing in the Polytechnic, you know, the one back in the 80s where he
Oh
went into
yeah.
feminist. Yeah. Yeah. You know what they're going to do? They're just going to crack down harder. That's all they're going to do. It just, and not only that, but you're actually just going after people that are just there. Like I totally disavow, put it that way. And you could say it's because I'm a Leaf and I have to, but it's not really going to solve the problem. Systematic political action in this day and age, on a practical level, solves a lot of problems, right? If you are worried about your kids being exploited, the way to do it isn't to like go and like these spectacle event, like, you know, because if you go to the only thing, like when it comes to these events, the government's just going to crack down even harder, right? They're
Yeah.
just going to introduce speech bills like they have, like they're trying to introduce in Ireland. Keith Woods tweeted about, you know, he's been very good about tweeting these like absolutely bonkers, insane anti-speech bills. Like in Australia too, they're proposing this. A lot of our mutuals that live in these places, like Morgoth, like Joel Davis, like a lot of people, they're directly threatened by this, right? Like there will be a possibility that Morgoth and Millennial Woes and any other, like even Sargon, these people, they're friends of ours. They will be affected by these speech bills, right? And there will be a day maybe I will be affected by these speech bills. Because in Canada, yeah, we have these like, you know, we have these human rights commissions, whatever. But you know, it's not as bad as the UK or Ireland or, well, yeah, UK or even Australia. But these events where some like psycho goes there and tries to like redact people, um, they're not going, like, not only are they terrible and I disavow, but they're just going to screw things up for any pushback in the long term. Because then people are going to, like, already I see this. Already I see leftist accounts, like, you know, like people tweeting about this. And it's terrible. And and I disavow, and I think it's not just terrible because it's going to affect the right wing, but it's also terrible that this guy is like going out there and targeting random people in a university. You know what I mean? So it's like, unfortunately, like these crazy people are going to listen to this stuff, and it's just, yeah, I don't know what to say. Yeah,
Oh, we're gonna get the same thing on local levels. Blue
right.
states will crack down. Red states will just be 5 years behind. I
No,
mean,
exactly. Yeah.
um, Wisconsin State Senator LaToya Johnson, which I don't think I need to go much further into illustrating who she is. One of those smoke alarm Americans. Basically, literally said "fuck the suburbs" on the Senate floor during a debate about
Yeah.
crime.
No,
Like
I
this is
saw
what
that.
this is what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
And this isn't going to go away. That, like, while certain states, and again, there's a reason why Tennessee was pictured like hosting these events for Skildings, is because they have some of the toughest free speech laws in terms of like the local level.
Mm.
But I mean, they'll find other ways to do it. I mean, the best way that America has is just disparate impact in the civil rights regime. Like,
Yeah.
there are very few ways in which you can legally discriminate in the United States. And I don't even just mean like saying no Irish allowed or whatever. I mean literally saying like we can select who our membership is. And that's basically fraternity organizations or organizations that require genealogical proof.
Yeah.
And that's about it. So like, Daughters of the American Revolution or whatever is a really good example of this. And it was just really depressing because like I'm seeing these disgusting people just sort of, I guess we'll transition into the affirmative action news. So
Yeah,
for those
before we go to that,
yeah, go for it.
like I just want to say, like, I'm this is genuine. Like, I'm not doing the whole like fake disavowal thing. I think it's generally terrible that even though I don't agree with what, like, I don't agree philosophically with what they're teaching. Although in these gender studies classes, you do have like, in terms of like a theory cell outlook, you do have like a very like genuine trains of thought that are discussed. But of course, like, you're never gonna get away with like frog posting in the classroom. Although actually,
You can get close, but
you get close, yeah.
you got to
Go
make
ahead.
sure it hits the right K line.
Yeah, I had a gender studies prof who let me frog post in our philosophy of sex class. She was pretty based. She went to the University of Memphis. But you know, that's where I actually back
The
in the day.
University of okay. No, sorry, a philosophy of sex course. Was this in your master's or?
No, this was like one of the most popular. No, okay, sorry, I'm getting confused because the guy that taught it, it was philosophy of sex. We read that book Smut, and he was pretty based. He retired recently. He was a Nietzschean. He was like one of the very few good Nietzschean philosophy professors left. But I had a critical theory professor who went to University of Memphis, and she was like an old school rad femme, right? But then she like was all disillusioned with the activism stuff, and she actually taught me like the Frankfurt School and critical theory pretty good. Like, she had a pretty non-biased classroom, and like, you know, she let you frog post, and yeah. But then there's, you know, there's like feminist professors and like that teach these gender critical study courses, and yeah, they're like termly libtarded. But my point being is that I think it's a tragedy, and I pray to God, like, thank God that nobody got seriously hurt. Apparently, all of the 3 people that were targeted, including the professor, there's like non-life threatening injuries. So I'm glad. I'm glad. But I think like these attacks are despicable, and they're not going to do any favors to push back on like a lot of the stuff that's happening to kids, right? Like, that's not the way to go. Even like, I would even say that these like the whole like thing about the protests against the drag story hour thing, like, you know, you're going to get doxxed. There's like whole networks of Antifa people that are just around these events to dox you, right? And I'm on the fence when it comes to IRL activism without counter signaling people that do it. But this type of stuff is totally like, it's terrible, and I think that I'm glad that nobody was severely injured, and this guy was probably just a crazy person. And yeah, you know, it's bad. It's bad. And
long story short, you just disavowed acts of terrorism.
Yeah, exactly. I know. Yeah, exactly. I disavow acts of terror, but I disavow it because you know, I mean, does this? Here's the thing. You want to know where I disagree with Sargon circa 2015, or like Jordan Peterson. And this is something that
the floor is yours, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry, Prude, if I'm taking up too much time.
No, you're good. You're good. Go.
Okay. This is something the default friend talked about, by the way. Is that, yes, okay, the universities are sort of like the madrasas of progressive ideology, right? But the way that these progressive policies get implemented is that you have a lot of like that 2010s Tumblr culture that was taken by the students and brought into the universities. And of course, the way that ideological enforcement happens isn't just with professors, right? The professors, they're like true believers, okay? And believe me, I've been enough around like libtarded professors to know this. But when it comes to the actual policies, it's more of the administrations of these universities and of corporations that are doing this. And it's actually taking like obscure academic theory and then mainstreaming it and memifying it in these like, you know, very diffuse ways. Then that was brought to the universities. And then we have this cycle. So in a way, all those like alt-light people, they sort of missed the mark in terms of not just like they hyper focused on these like libtarded professors, these like liberal professors that were spouting this ideology. They would like hyper focus on like these Marxists in the universities, these gender critical professors. But really, when it comes to that, and like basically having laws like here in Ontario, where if you don't want your kids to become trans, then they could like bring a, you know, child services case against you. That didn't happen because of like, you know, leftist professors only. There's like this whole apparatus of things that happen. And so just to like hyper focus and like target just on these professors, I think was a calculated mistake, because a lot of those people, and maybe Sargon is different now in terms of his opinion. I'm just using him as an example. This is Jordan Peterson. This is all them as well. Is that they didn't really focus on the systems theory that goes into how progressive social policy is implemented, how we got from like less than the span of 10 years to like talking about it as like an excessive leftist ideology about trans children in drag time story hour, blah, 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 to like it now being enshrined in law. Like there's a whole series of events. You can't just like look at, like, yes, leftist academia is a big part of it, but even the ways in which professors, like how they plan their courses, is like very different than just like this one-to-one Jordan Peterson, the leftist professors are indoctrinating children. Like there's a whole series of like bureaucracy that happens. And when it comes to like the actual like going, like, okay, like I say, I disagree with them philosophically, but when you actually go to these like gender studies courses, it's not like they're hooking up the ideology machine to you. And you know what I mean? Like it's very different than that. Like, yes, you're probably not going to have a paper where you're like critiquing them from a right-wing perspective, obviously. But I'm saying like to go and like target professors is sort of like missing the point. It's like not really how actually policies that affect children in particular, like how they actually happen. You know what I mean? Like in this case, I think Molbug is probably correct in talking about the systematic nature of it. So like lunatics going and like targeting professors that are teaching critical theory, like there's something about it, like having been in academia, that just doesn't seem correct in this whole thing. Not that you should go and target anybody with violence. Obviously, we disavow here in the Digital Archipelago. We disavow terroristic acts. I mean, I don't even have to say it, right? But I'm just saying that the discourse around the way in which progressive social ideology gets turned into public policy is very complex, and it can't be targeted by just targeting one organ of it, in my opinion. So I think that like systematic local political victories against leftist ideology is going to be the winning strategy when other, I understand like the desperation, but this is the way that policies get moved forward. Like in this transition, to your point, like the affirmative action ruling.
What a
there
great...
you go. Jump up.
I'm going to just shut the fuck up for a second, and then we'll get into it. So yeah, we're going. But
did you agree with me, Pruder? I don't know if you want to push back on me. That's fine.
No, you're fine. I thought that your point was good. I mean, I don't think anyone's going to... There's no concentration of power that the right has. And yeah. I don't like. I get it. Like people who target academics, you're hitting the wrong target if you're going to go after it. And I mean this within the letter of the law type deal. I'm not fed or fun posting here. What I mean more specifically is that if you want to go after things that you need to address, and I hate this, and this was a point that one of the organizers made at the event, was just like, well, at this point we're all kind of Marxists, in the fact that we're all talking about like the base and superstructure.
Yeah, it's true.
But it's true. Like I don't like the legal superstructure of the United States is the Civil Rights Act. That until that is defeated, you're not going to really get anywhere meaningfully on a large nationwide scale. You can attract local victories in the instances of like finding organizations and fraternal organizations. Like that's what the Old Glory Club is. It's literally a fraternity. Like that's how it's structured as, legally speaking. So it's like that gives you power in order to ensure that like good faith individuals of the right stock are the ones that are there. It's not it's not that leftism is the Death Star or isn't the Death Star. You go after whatever bone you have to pick. No, I get that. But you go after a professor, right? Or like you go after one thing, they're going to go after the other. Like this, the amount, and this was something that was very funny about the discussions about putting the woke away, was just like, well, what if other countries want to do X, Y, and Z or whatever? It's just like, my country can turn like the youth of a population into like homosexuals and troons faster than that country can economically hurt the United States.
Yeah.
That's the unfortunate evil empire that I live under. Strictly legal means, of course. Yes. I mean, I'm acting like that for that.
But this is what Molbug said, right? If you want like an edgier point, okay, like acts of terrorism, right? I think Molbug talked about how the Weather Underground, like, didn't they bomb the Pentagon or something?
They bombed Congress. They bombed the Capitol building.
Yeah. And you know how like a lot of those people are
Like
still,
we literally like had a bomb go off in the 1970s by leftists, but you
yeah.
know, a bunch of guys that live in double wides and trailer parks protesting an obviously stolen election is tantamount to the end of the republic.
Yeah, no, but the Mobley's point was like, how come the Weather Underground can bomb Congress and bomb the Pentagon, but yet a lot of them become like Ivy League professors after they do their little jail stint? How did that
because
happen?
because it enforces the regime. Like
Exactly. No, but that's my point. Like exactly. Like go ahead, Prue. Go ahead. Yeah. My point being is that like like unless you have institutional power to begin with, it's never good. It's never prudent. It's never going to work.
I
It's
mean
like
the
yeah.
I like the general wrangle approach where like the academic, well, maybe you know maybe to be a counterpoint, maybe the general wrangle approach would be necessary. Give the students a chance to repent for they were indoctrinated, but take out their professors. Like I've read Mystery Grove's books always with
Oh
honor in
boy.
this respect, but again, all within the letter and confine of the law here on the digital archipelago. And that includes voting by mail if it's necessary. But you do need a rival distributed network of power. I think Connor Rafferty kind of making a joke about like you need an archipelago of power is actually not a half bad thing. Like that's
That's
the
true.
issue of like decentralization. This is where you get things like the network state. I also recommend seeing and thinking like a state. That that sort of literature is really important. But yeah, you're up against their hearts were in the right place. Yeah, I'm sure they were. I'm
Mm.
sure. But Wrangel didn't win. Wrangel doesn't win because the commissars of the White Army could never agree on an objective post-imperial ambition for Russia.
Yeah.
Like if you read that book and if you read the documents and the diaries of other soldiers in the White Army, the leadership of the various battalions and soldiers of that army, despite having victories and having the side of the priests and the people, could not effectively come together and agree on what do we do when we win and how can we organize coherent resistance in order to defeat the Bolsheviks. And because there was no clear lines of communication, delineated based upon egoism, multi-ethnic conflicts inside the organization, and
Mm-hmm.
the inability to address the fact that the only thing that should matter right now in the death of the Tsar, forever blessed memory eternal, uh, the issue's the Bolsheviks. We can talk about who rules after, but you have to like kill commies first. Like that was their argument. And because that was never accomplished, no, Wrangel didn't win. And the White Army retreats out of Crimea, singing the Troporion of the Cross, knowing that they will never come home to their country that they fought and died for.
Yeah.
And odds are, if you don't organize and affirm some basic tenets of whatever you're going to believe in this conflict, spiritual, political, or otherwise, that's going to happen again. And that very thing was addressed at the conference, the White Army specifically, from Not Me, Not You, Curtis. It was a nightmare, and I
Mm.
imagine the same thing will happen. The one benefit, though, like I guess like Russia, the United States has a large, wide, disparate geography that will probably enable it some ways to survive. But
Yeah.
I don't think so. Like because like what we're going to see is a great fragmentation, both digitally but also politically in the real world. I mean, whether it was that black state senators just saying "F the suburbs." You're going to see the institutions of power like Harvard, like UNC, like MIT, were just basically given a legal out to manipulate procedural outcomes to get a desired end. And that's the Supreme Court ruling that we got today. It came out on a 6-3 ruling for the University of North Carolina case and 6-2 in the Harvard case because Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson recused herself because she served on the board at Harvard.
Oh my
Um,
God.
yeah, so for one of these cases, the
That's a
audio,
godsend, eh?
yeah, the audio was probably a lot less because she didn't speak as much. But I'm going to read from the archived article that I have from the Washington Post. We'll just go over it real quick. The Supreme Court on Thursday held that admissions programs at Harvard and the University of North Carolina that relied in part on racial considerations to violate the Constitution's equal protection, a historic ruling that will force the dramatic change in how the nation's private and public universities select their students. This vote split along ideological grounds. Chief Justice John Roberts writing the conservative members of the majority while the liberals dissenting. While the ruling involved race-conscious programs at Harvard and UNC, it will affect virtually every college and university in the United States. The student must be treated on the basis of his or her experience as an individual, not on the basis of race, Roberts wrote. Many universities have for too long done the opposite. In doing so, they have concluded wrongly that the touchstone of an individual's identity is not challenges bested, skills built, or lessons learned, but the colors of their skin. Our constitutional history does not tolerate that choice. Roberts said that the admissions programs at Harvard and UNC lack sufficiently focused and measurable objectives warranting the use of race, unavoidably employ race in a negative manner involving racial stereotyping, and lack meaningful endpoints. But he added, quote, nothing in this opinion should be construed as prohibiting universities from considering an applicant's discussion of how race affected his or her life, be it through discrimination, inspiration, or otherwise. I mean, so college admissions essays, right, can still easily be judged here. It was the second time in as many terms of the court, its dominant conservative majority has undermined the decades-old landmark ruling. Landmark rulings. The vote was 6-3. Vote 6-2 for Harvard because Miss Jackson was sorry, Miss Jackson. She was out. This, of course, led to Roe v. Wade being overturned earlier this year. The court first approved of the limited use of affirmative actions in college admissions 45 years ago. It's been 45 years too long. In her dissent, Justice Sotomayor, the court's lone Latina justice, who should not be there, if you want an interesting thing, listen to her white Harvard law professor tell Barack Obama anyone but her, wrote that it's a disturbing feature of today's decision that the court does not even attempt to make extraordinary showing required to reverse precedent. Sotomayor, who says her own life is an example of how affirmative action programs can work, i.e. how the worst parts can get in, spoke at length for the bench during Thursday's session, a tactic justices used to make their profound disagreement with a decision, meaning she was speaking her piece. Equal educational opportunity is a prerequisite to achieving racial equality in our nation, she wrote in a 69-page dissent, which was joined by Jackson and Justice Elena Kagan. We've tried now for 60 years to make that work. Hasn't happened. Never will. And that leads to comfortable questions. Today, this court stands in the way and rolls back decades of precedent momentous progress. It holds that a race can no longer be used in a limited way in college admissions to achieve such critical benefits, Sotomayor wrote. And so holding, the court cements the superficial role of colorblindness as a constitutional principle in an endemically segregated society where race has always mattered and continues to matter. Woke or more correct than the mainstream moment. Race has always mattered and continues to matter. Like base, you know? Is Sotomayor going to drop the 14 words in their next dissent? Who knows? Roberts' majority opinion did not specify whether the court was overturning its precedent in Grutter versus Bollinger, a 2003 opinion that said universities could consider race as a factor in admissions decisions to build a diverse student body. But in his concurring opinion, Justice Clarence Thomas, the one token in Hyperborea, a longtime opponent of affirmative action, wrote, the court's opinion rightly makes clear that Grutter is, for all intents and purposes, overruled, and it sees the university's admissions and policies for what they are, rudderless, race-based preferences designed to ensure a particular racial mix in entering their classes. And he also wrote elsewhere in his dissent saying, quote, people may laugh at the statement, but our planet moved through space for millions of years uninhabited by men, and at some future date may easily begin to do so again. If men should forget that wherever they have reached a superior level of existence, it was not as a result of following the ideas of crazy visionaries, but acknowledging and rigorously observing the iron laws of nature.
Yeah. Oh, by the way,
fathomably based.
By the way, the stabber in Waterloo apparently is from Ecuador.
Oh, well, look at that.
But he's got a German last name, but it's like from Ecuador. So
I wonder where he came from.
Oh my God, he looks Ecuadorian. That's crazy. It's another multiracial.
Multiracial white supremacy is very real, apparently.
But I wanted to ask you, Prude.
Yeah.
So, but before, just to finish off the Waterloo thing, like I said, political victories come from stuff like this. It comes from systematic political action. And when conservatards, when they talk about well, the Weather Underground bombed the Pentagon, how come what happened in the 6th? Listen, they got away with it, and Bill Ayers became a tenured professor because there was already an apparatus of power there. Okay, so these stochastic events aren't going to do anything on a purely practical political level. They're going to do the opposite, because now Trudeau's going to create this symbolic thing where he's like, well, you know who's responsible for this? Pierre Poilievre is responsible for this. Conservative Party, Stephen Harper. Stephen Harper is responsible for this. That's I've already seen libtards in Canada say this. But anyways, just to cap that up. So, I wanted to ask you, like, it's really crazy that Justice Roberts signed the majority opinion. That's insane to me, because Roberts himself is like this like weak, like Bush era, like rhino. And it's, do you
I
have
would
any
argue
insight
that
about
this is
that?
pretty.
Yeah.
I would argue that this is pretty consistent with Justice Roberts. Like,
Really?
um, he's a flip flopper, but I mean, on this issue with respects to race, this doesn't surprise me that he's writing sort of this clear. Because keep in mind, what does Roberts do in the majority opinion? And I'm going to refer now to our friend Kovefe Anon, because he wrote the majority. We're going to just go through it. Here's the crux of the decision: the court did nothing, and certainly not overturn. Oh, I can just share this tab instead. Share, yeah. One of my favorite mutuals. Courts goes, okay, we just decided that the applicants' lives weren't all affected in such a way that we're giving the exact same bonuses and penalties we were giving before. This goes back to what we were just reading. Because Harvard and UNC's admissions programs lack sufficiently focused and measurable objectives warranting the use of race, unavoidably employ race in a negative manner involving racial stereotyping, lack meaningful endpoints, those admission programs cannot be reconciled with the guarantees of the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. At the same time, nothing prohibits universities from considering an applicant's discussion of race affected the applicant's life. So many universities have too long wrongly concluded that this touchstone as an individual's identity is not challenged as bested skills built. Yeah, which we just read, which is kind of funny because this is a touchstone of it. Like Roberts is basically saying like race isn't that important, but like if you think it's important, you can value it. We'll keep reading. Ultimately, the court is powerless and is making a binding decision on universities anyway. The universities will simply ignore the ruling and keep doing what they were doing. Correct. The DOJ won't go after them either. This DOJ is progressive. Of course they won't. Another setup typical of progressive governance is where most offensive things in the world have actual clear rule for room and manipulation of procedural outcomes. The best part of the open letter is that little phrase right there. The manipulation of procedural outcomes to get a desired result. And Moldbuck himself says he wished he came up with it. He found it somewhere else. Affirmative action is illegal, but will continue forever and be legal because reasons. This is basically the only way the court could preserve the pretense that they have power. An actual ruling against affirmative action would have been ignored. A ruling upholding it would have been rightly seen as a joke. They ruled out the impossible and came up with this. The funniest part is that it's so transparent. They don't need to hear cases for years, but California bans race-based admissions by referendum, and the UC system adapts to show how it can get around this exact ruling. Now it is a safe decision and say, I'll just do what University of California state system does. Putting it on a line with a test. The decision will have overturned affirmative action if the incoming class of the selective universities is 2% or less black. If that happens, then this thread was wrong. I know in the UC system, I think we've had people say that like actually black attendance did decrease, but this is just the nature of how it's going to be, I think, for some time. Have they blamed wildfires on conservatives? No, they're blaming wildfires jokingly on Canadians right now. Although I don't know what the red case is here. But I mean, like red state district, conservatives in Canada. I mean, like I don't think red state DAs won't go after this. I mean, I would be thoroughly. The one state that could arguably do anything with any meaningful degree of interest would be actually Texas, because the governor of Texas has legal authority or some legal authority to directly intervene in the University of Texas education system. Like that, the UT system he does have impacts on. So, I mean, it would be, again, Davis said repeatedly, exactly. And I mean, like Dave the Distributist is right on this point. Like that's what's coming in here is that, yes, on paper it's banned. Libtards are crying. But the ruling, I think, will have little to no impact at all. Maybe in red states, but even then, what it will be is color blindness. And this is, again, to quote Kovefe Anon's famous line, where the woke are more correct than the mainstream. Actually, color blindness is awful, and the liberals are right to call it out.
There was some like African American head journalist in like one of these papers that said like, oh my God, this is terrible. They're like freaking out about this. They're like, they had to gut the 14th Amendment to do this. What's that coming from? They had to gut the 14th Amendment, or is that just nonsense? That's
I'd imagine that's nonsense, but like all of these civil rights cases are formulated more or less around one thing. The Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution. So let's go pull that up and we can talk about that.
There you go.
So we'll
in Canada, we don't have this. We have like the privilege of British precedent. And I mean, actually, no, our Constitution has like something like this.
All right, well, we will go read the 14th Amendment.
Yeah.
But we're gonna get to the equal in section 1 of the 14th Amendment.
Also, you have to explain why this is like Roberts' decision, why it's consistent with him.
I think it's consistent with Roberts because Roberts didn't do anything in this decision. That's my point. Roberts is a flip-flopper. Okay. Yeah. Roberts is a crypto lib. So what does Roberts' opinion do?
Nothing.
It leaves it open for the libs. And he's done this before. Or he's openly just said, screw you, to actual legal challenges to laws like the Affordable Care Act. Like, the Affordable Care Act's a tax. And, you know, the way it was sold was not in that respect. But no, Roberts said no. That's why I mean this is very consistent with Roberts.
That's what I mean. Like, he, like, I remember it, those debates. Because I was listening to Ghost from True Capitalist Radio. I remember like Roberts like bent the knee to the Affordable Care, the Obamacare Act, or he didn't bend the knee. He just like he implicitly bent the knee, and like that was a big disgrace. I remember like among like Rush Limbaugh was like
he's only the most hated Supreme Court justice ever, you know. Nominated. maybe people hate Taney more because of Dred Scott, but like in modern history, he's definitely one of the more hated ones. But I'll read it here. Section 1 of the 14th Amendment. The 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments are what we call the Reconstructionist or the Civil War amendments with respect to slavery. But I'll read it here. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of the citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive the person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of laws. And that last phrase right there. You know, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. And that's where we really get the one that is the most litigated about the equal protection, ranging from everything to Roe v. Wade to Brown v. Board, University of California versus Bach, and now more recently the two cases with respects to Harvard and the University of North Carolina. And that's where we're at. This one's been debated at all times. I mean, this is, again, when you can come up with liberties that are, i.e. invented, say like the right to privacy, or at least the invented right to privacy that comes out of the case that legalizes, what is it, Griswold v. Connecticut. For some reason, I keep thinking Clark v. Griswold. I'm like, why am I thinking of the National Lampoon? But like, you know, and again, how does that start out? It starts out with an invented right to privacy for married couples to use contraception inside their domicile. And what did you get a decade later from that? You got Roe v. Wade. Yeah. Slippery slope is real, always has been, and I wish people would acknowledge that. But yeah.
What's the prawn one? What was the prawn one?
Oh, with respects to pornography?
Yeah, well, we're on YouTube, so pornography,
on my channel and shit like that. But yeah, I mean, like I'll risk it. But yeah, like the ACA's been, but that's all been said already. Yeah, record deepness. That's why I wasn't gonna go too into it. It's a disaster. For pornography, I don't actually know.
There was like one landmark ruling.
I know there's. I think it's a freedom of speech ruling.
Like that's like Emoko Jones talks about that, like how it was never considered speech.
Oh, it was always in I think it's in the Commerce Clause actually. But it comes from the very famous like the obscenity laws is how it came from. It came from I think Jacobellis versus Ohio, which had to do with a like some sort of skin flick, I think. Yeah. And I mean, also like there was like Roth v. United States with respects to obscene material in the First Amendment that was ruled on that issue. So, because back then it used to be just a common law rule that like depraved and corrupt things are bad and they're deemed obscene and we should get rid of them. Ironically, that was used to have censorship of books by Balzac, James Joyce, and a few others. But it's been again since the 1960s. Look at that, you know. What a coinky dink.
There was older laws too, like even in Europe, like in France, they had like they called them moral harassment laws.
Yeah.
I love that term. I remember Nigel Carlsbad, my good friend Carlsbad had that. He talked about that once in a tweet about moral harassment laws. We should bring those back.
We
Moral
we
harassment.
used to have blasphemy laws in the United
Yeah,
States.
yeah. But
Yeah.
I like Matai Kat's take here. I hate to blackpill, but it's a good take. The Equality Protection Clause has been constructed to support segregation and prevent it. It's a meaningless void. You can't interpret whatever you want from it. Or I think he meant to say you can interpret whatever. Yeah, exactly. You can
you
interpret.
can.
Yeah,
you can, and that's the natures. Because like there's no and I was
like
being,
a fishy frenzy.
I was being Lauren's that's so true. It was so true. It was. We had
The
sodomy
other
laws
one,
in
the
Texas.
other
Oh. Yeah. That got a certain
really eh?
that got a certain man in Alaska fired from his government job.
God.
Because he agreed with that take, Fishy Frenzy, and now he got fired and does his their Contra Gentiles podcast up in Alaska. But yeah, like he's a
Is
diehard.
that true though? There's no marital, in laws in America, or is that?
There are.
Yeah.
But there are certain takes to be made within certain marriage. Like the argument is the marriage contract would nullify that.
Well, it's because it's like very hard to prove or you know what I mean? Like
yes.
Very ambiguous cases. Like I mean that type of crime in general, like the way that it's been like I know this is like 2010s manosphere shit, but like it's there's notorious difficulty with a lot of the. Not to say, of course, I'm not like I'm not like agreeing or disagreeing.
I'm loving this stream of takes here though.
Yeah.
There you go. But
no wonder marriage. No. Oh God.
So.
Oh, sorry,
Oh boy. I am on my bike. That's right. The other thing too is that Stanley v. Georgia was the unanimous Supreme Court decision. That's true.
Yeah.
Correct. Thank you.
Yeah, Stanley versus Georgia. Yeah, that's right.
So Harvard replied, and Harvard said today in a press release. Today, the Supreme Court delivered its decision in Students for Fair Admissions versus President and Fellows of Harvard College. The court held that Harvard College's admission system does not comply with the principles of the Equal Protection Clause embodied by Title IV of the Civil Rights Act, which comes from the 14th Amendment. The court has also ruled that colleges and universities may consider admissions decisions, quote, an applicant's discussion of how race has affected his or her life, and be it through discrimination, inspiration, or otherwise, end quote. We will certainly comply with the court's decision. And to quote Bog Beef, the temerity. So yes, they will obviously be using the essay portion of their admissions to have heavy considering. In that respect.
I was confused about this. So, how does this work? So, the Supreme Court is arguing that these universities like Harvard is saying that race is a detriment to their application or their lived embodied experience. But I think like Harvard retorted with, no, actually we considered it positive because it's like, but then it's like, the Supreme Court's like, well, no, actually that's affirmative action. If you're saying that it's a positive quality, you are discriminating. Like, how does that work about being like race being a positive or negative thing in terms of this court ruling? I was confused about that part.
So the complaint raised in the case is that the current forms of racial considerations that Harvard uses,
right.
Which, has been famously called anti-Asian, and it's always focused on Asians. It's never focused on white people.
There's even a King of the Hill episode about this.
There sure is.
With Connie.
That show is more accurate to the state of like North Texas boomer cons than anyone wants to admit, but it's true.
King of the Hill is more accurate than the mainstream.
It's so very true. So the issue is that the current form in which they did it prior to this ruling is that race was heavily considered. It allowed people to go, we're going to get to it, Donald Trump gaming. You can anyways. So the nature of the system was that race was considered up front and foremost. This is why you would see all those discussions and leaked convos about how Harvard and other college admissions would go about saying, oh, that guy's black, you know, like we can let him in or we can squeeze him in. That's why we have a
Yeah, those
myriad of.
Asian rights groups people were like really having a
Well,
field
yeah, because
day.
it screws them over just as much as it does white people, except they're
Yeah.
they're Schrodinger's minorities, so they can kind of fit in there.
Yeah, Chris Rufo
Um,
was even like talking about this. Yeah.
yeah, because he's Rufo. Anyways,
Like Bab said, his wife makes him, that particular type of
of dish.
of dish. It's like they have the coconut milk, so Chris Rufo life put the coconut milk in there. It's that was funny. Anyways,
Yeah.
go ahead. Yeah.
So because race is openly considered,
Yeah.
they that was their complaint. Like race is openly considered. We can prove that it does discriminate against us on the nature of race. We have a case. We have injury because people are not being accepted into these universities despite having more than enough qualifications.
Right. Yeah.
And because conservative ink in this country does not do anything for white people, conservative ink has latched on to its great yellow savior and has decided that this will be the way that we can fight the woke and fight
Yeah.
racism and have a colorblind
Yeah.
liberal society, because liberalism's never been tried in this country.
Yeah, really, really good not to have an actual like inborn native meritocracy. You have to import H-1B visa holders, like high IQ people from Asia to fight your culture war battle. Wow, that's really that's really good. Like,
So yeah, they sued, and so they've proven that it is. And then so Chief Justice John Roberts gave them that out, saying like there are other ways that you can consider race. So we'll see. If it does actually implement and help like white people more than more than like 3 or 5% in university admissions, I would be very surprised. But I do think that these top tier schools will happily, and they do pay out of state tuition and nation tuition. It's so true. They shouldn't be here. But and then here, of course, we've got in my lovely state, there is a gentleman by a Texas state representative saying that he says, "Congratulations to white supremacy for winning a huge victory today." And this is a woke. These are a woke.
Right.
These are a woke. Woke is more correct than the mainstream moment.
Do you want my most OPSEC take on the like not having H-1B visas in universities? But you finish your point. Sorry, I'm keeping.
Yeah. Let me finish this real quick because it's just he's right. Meritocracy is white supremacy. I'm sorry. Like we've done 70 years of trying to correct the system for racial imbalances, systems, and so on. Is it ever going to be perfect? No. But as the legal system as we have it currently right now is not in any respects free market, is not in any respects fair to these people, and with regards to like we're going to literally pull someone down to pull like the less qualified up. There are more videos than I care to count, and I mean Fisher King even does this, right? Like he's probably he's more optical than I am, and he's just like, look, all I got to do is like quote tweet all these videos and all these pictures of how like people who can get into Harvard on a 2.2 GPA, right? Like and it's a black
those
student.
TikToks.
Yeah, all those TikToks about how to do it. It's the classic accusing conservatives of being more base than they actually are. Yeah, and the Democrats are the real racist, and we should be embarrassed by that because they're better at it than we are.
They're better at way better at keeping black people down.
I mean, this was I know people don't like Sandbash, but he had the funniest take on this. He's just like, imagine, I mean, like with RFK taking all those like inner city kids up to hike, and it's just like, name the whitest thing imaginable, like renting a group of inner city blacks to go hiking. Like, that's the Democratic Party for you. Yeah, don't expect to build up the weak by pulling down the strong. Calvin Coolidge. Porn.
Listen, like, yeah, again, I'm not justifying discrimination, but it's funny how, like, when it comes to African Americans, like, their way of life, statistically, their income level, everything was like their rate of family, like having a father in the home, the rate of education even was way better before the 1960s. Then it's funny because when the Civil Rights Act was signed into law, like all of those things plummeted. It's very funny how like a legitimately more racist society, they were almost on par with white people in America, especially like poor white Appalachians they were on par with. It's
Yeah,
funny
no, I
how,
I, I agree
yeah,
with that.
it's a
That's
point you
what.
come back to in lot
Yeah, it was the
here.
point I was talking about in the trailer park discourse. Was just like, um, ironically, the highest time of like black economic growth and cultural growth in the United States is after Reconstruction and right before the Civil Rights Act. Is a entire century of growth, cultural identification, and sort of an ethnogenesis.
Yeah,
And then all of a sudden, we kill that, and what has come with from it? The absolute destruction of the black middle and upper middle class, the destruction of black marriages, the destruction of black families, ghettoization, criminalization, and has become nothing more than a biological block that can be used to levy against the larger majority population. And
mm,
at that time, we left our own. You do your thing, you do my thing. I lock my doors when I cross Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. That was the way that it was. And nowadays, it's far worse. One only needs to look on Twitter or check the headlines and notice how many times they don't mention the race when it's a brutalized white victim. And that's sort of that's the nature of it all. And because now you're seeing diversity, equity, and inclusion, ESG, although Larry Fink is not going to use the words ESG anymore, that was something that just comes to my mind here is that, oh, well, now they're targeting white people in the name of equity. Now they're
yeah,
targeting all this. So the same sort of cultural destruction that came to Black America in the 1960s is going to come for white America and has been coming really
yeah,
quick. It's a real disaster.
yeah. Fishy frenzy. Discrimination's natural and right, to quote Jonathan Bowden. The Democrats, the real racist. Richard Spencer. Oh God.
I know I know.
That's
It's bad.
funny.
But I mean,
Yeah,
the fact is the matter is this is that where we're at right now is that we're at a position that there's going to be they ironically kind of frank that they kind of are the canary in the coal mine,
oh yeah,
because like you want to know what like ethnic genocide looks like on a cultural level, look at them.
yeah.
you
Oh
know
yeah. I mean, blacks in America. I mean, like,
yeah,
oh, you're totally derooted from. Yeah, I mean, that's. I mean, of course. Well, the
like
history of it with slavery and
one does not need to be like a colorblind liberal to acknowledge that that's the case.
yeah. No, but that's what I mean. That's where conservatives get it so wrong, is because, like, like the whole like woke and more correct the mainstream. I mean, that's true in the sense of like not acknowledging that a huge part of your identity and who you are, which is your ethnic makeup. I mean, that's like you can't just obviate that from experience and existence. I mean, of course, like the argument of like, again, this goes back to like post-war war thing of like, if you acknowledge difference, this is going to lead to Jim Crow or even worse. I understand, like, that's been the conservative argument, but it's like when you have cases like that, even like this case being like against racial discrimination, it's like, yeah, they're going to find ways around it, but there is, I think people have been pointing out in contra to the black pill, is that actually this could be the open door for people to basically conduct lawsuits against universities to have an actual meritocracy. Because in these, and you would just need to take down like a few of them through these like through legal fare. You would just need these Asian groups or whoever, or you just need like a few frogs to like weaponize the legal system against these universities by by these admissions things, right? It's like that's what, like, these universities are shitting their pants over this, rightfully so, because I could imagine easily like some kind of like Asian rights groups to like do this, or like Chris Rufo's group or whatever. But
Yeah,
anyways, yeah,
I mean,
you
like,
had a take on this.
coincidentally, like out of those groups, I think like Corey DeAngelis's idea of like, listen, just give the money back to the people and let them go to their own school. Like, if
Yeah,
that
there you
means I
go.
wanted to send my children to like a preparatory academy where it's ran by like people like my priest or George Bagby, then like I'd be fine with that. But I mean, this is the case where watching the reactions to this really cements a point that Charlemagne made at the event. And I won't go through the entirety of his speech, but I will reiterate this key point. Like, the main political discourse between the Democrats and Republicans in this country are liberals versus racist liberals that are embarrassed about being racist. That's
It's
it.
true.
That's it. You get
Yeah.
two sides of liberalism. And ironically, yes, the Dems are the real racists, but in this instance, like, the Republicans are just like, well, crime's an issue, and like crime's a nice code word for like racism and blacks. So it's just like, but they're really embarrassed about it because they know that they don't want to be called racist.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, it's basically just one camp of liberals versus a camp of liberals that's like
We have to
temporarily
colorblind.
embarrassed racist liberals.
Yeah, totally colorblind society. Like, in essence, is this not like this court ruling is a totally colorblind society, quote unquote?
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
mean that's the case, and so we'll continue to have more of the same. It will just be slightly different, and it will be like the University of California system.
Yeah.
And I agree with Dave's take completely on this, and like is this a symbolic victory?
Yes.
Is it going to be is it a managerial victory for the left? 125%.
Well, what is this take? How is it a managerial victory in a sense of like
Because it allows them to ensure that like racial like selection to get their quotas, equity, diversity, whatever, still gets to occur. I mean, Roberts gave them an out. And also, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, the other thing to consider is that in this ruling, Chief Justice John Roberts exempted the United States military academies from this.
Oh,
so there are still the pre-existing.
So the imperial foreign armies can still come about in America.
Yes. So the previous method of selection and racial considerations are still in applications on this respect.
Yeah.
And at 9mm SMG had a great thread on the woke being more correct using his aunt's statements in his decision. Okay, well, we'll happily read through that. I think it was in my DMs. Because yeah, it was just an absolute mess.
Can we
I do
pull
have
up
to
some Dave takes? Can we pull up some Dave takes?
Oh, Dave's takes are from like live streams, and I don't know which streams it's from.
Okay, I thought I meant Twitter.
No, well, the only Twitter take he had was one I quote tweeted, which was let me see if I can find it. Because I said basically like he's right, which more or less I was being spicy on Maine because originalism is originalism, constitutional interpretation is when it benefits white men, and I just simply asked, well, who do you think they wrote the Constitution for?
White men.
White men. So no. So Dave Green said this on Twitter. He says the anti-affirmative action ruling today is a huge victory for responsible managerial side of the left wing. Shores up their competency crisis, allows them to put the crazy wokies away. (Parentheses kinda). 3 requires dark power mechanisms to be built to stabilize a progressive coalition. I think it will allow them to do what they want, to still have like their progressive bio-Leninism just through the essays.
You know who had a great take? I think it was Kefefianon. It was either him or it was
Let's see if I can find 9mm SMG's thread, but go on.
It was either him or it was someone else of like an older frog Twitter variety, my generation of frogs. I think it was Kefefianon that said like conservatism in America, in North America in general, because Harper's government proved this in Canada as well, right? Again, I'm trying to justify me being a leaf and commenting on American politics.
Yeah, they might use zip codes. That's not bad. Oh, here's the thread.
Yeah.
I'll bring it up so we can share it. I think we will have to wait until the next bout of admissions and new policies that universities
in the spring.
drop.
Yeah.
I gotta go hide that. No one needs to see the fact I'm at one of Schwab's chats.
Oh boy, tell Schwab to let me in one of his chats again.
I can't have people finding out what's going on in Schwab's chats. But anyways, he says, my Democrat and a doctor just had a meltdown over the Supreme Court decision saying that if blacks have to go by merit, they'll never get anywhere. Then she compared being black to being mentally disadvantaged. After her rant, she says, oh God, I didn't mean that.
Oh, I saw this one. Yeah, someone added me.
Yeah,
her
argument is that they have much lower. Yeah, so basically an HBD argument, but still deserve a shot because they're still equal as human beings. So if we don't prop them up, and she says it's our duties as Christians to help those born without the right tools to navigate the world. She might be more racist than me. Probs.
Yeah, but do you want doctors and lawyers to be like less than adequate? Yeah.
No, that's the point. But to do that acknowledges the like forbidden third rail of American politics, which is
no. But that's like in Canada. I hear this argument all the time of like doctors that were educated in Bangladesh or in Ukraine. It's like they're taxi drivers. Like, even my cousin. Okay, my cousin's kind of a libtard. Okay, and she's a surgeon nurse. She lives in San Francisco, and she's like, well, even her, she like during Trump, she was like, I hate Trump. Oh my God, Trump. And I'm like, and she knows I'm a frog, right?
Yeah.
she would say, you know why when she went to medical school in Canada, you know why like these people they drive taxis? It's because the standards in like a lot of these countries as opposed to the standards in Canada in terms of like the medical field are like way higher. And they have to jump through a lot of hoops to skill up their training. And it's like so why would you want people like this whole argument of like, well, they were a doctor in, you know, in they were a doctor in Jakarta or in Odessa, and like how come they're not a doctor here? Well, it's because
Yeah.
we, you know, I mean, like it's literally like this is where a lot of the newer like the new Marna posters or even like they're correct. It's like this is like legit North American style meritocracy, you know, and people are like that's racist. Well, hey, I'm
Yep.
sorry, but like it's
Sorry, but not sorry. So yeah, so she continues. I'm dead legitimately. Like my aunt is a good-hearted eugenicist. Her most recent text to me. I'm not trying to be racist, but there's obviously a difference between white/Asians and African Americans. They're good people and God's children, but they're not biologically. Yeah, I know. You talk about the black crime rate. Yes, I agree. It's huge and how we can lower it, but we don't need to completely lower our standards if we want them to be functional and peaceful members of our society. We need to give them an advantage and priority. Otherwise, you'll see kids who could have, if given a leg up, be thriving members of society turn to crime and murder. Whites and Asians are more than intelligent enough to go over any barrier put in place in front of them. There's a reason to hold no one group back because they're born disadvantaged. They're still equal beings. They're just not adapted for this particular economy. Like your aunt is like this is something that we would see in like the comment section of like
of Paul. This is literally like 19th century. This is like literally like 19th century racist liberalism. This is like in
again,
America,
liberalism versus racist liberalism.
Well, Christopher Sandbach talks about, and Nigel, you know, it's funny because Fishy Frenzy in the chat's correct. Like Nigel Carlsbad was 100% right because if you like look at the older tradition of liberalism, like even Paul Godfrey talks about, like this is like literally the older 19th century racist liberalism of like meets the white man's burden of like we have to like take on the subalterns of the earth, you know, like this is like literally that. You know, it's crazy. I mean, it's way more.
My aunt is basically the David Duke is ultra compassionate. Like, I get that you're shitting on your aunt here, but like
this, this is how a libtard can become like.
I want to start a podcast on with her who is more racist, her or myself. Truthfully, she's a race realist, but is burdened by the notion of utopian egalitarianism. She's tremendously compassionate, so she feels everyone has a is our burden, has a duty. Yeah, so basically the white man's burden.
Oh man.
Like we're relitigating the 19th century apparently.
Oh, this is crazy. This is so crazy.
Yeah, no, and I mean this goes back to Mindy Kaling's brother, right? I faked being black to get into medical school. Like that's what he did.
Is it Mindy Kaling is she Indian or what is she?
She's Indian. I think she's a Jainist as well. That kind of Indian. But yeah, it was like, you know, Cory Booker.
Then how come she doesn't have the face covering?
Because she lives in the United States of America. Let's not kid ourselves here. More Muslims in my country are pro-gay than white evangelicals. Like let's not kid ourselves.
No, the Jainists, they have this face mesh, this like lace thing, because they don't want to prevent like bugs from flying in their mouth or something in case they accidentally kill a bug.
Ah, well, you know, it's not a. But okay, yeah, it's not like she wears that, you know.
Too bad. I mean,
yeah, too bad. Maybe she'd shut up more, but that's the case.
Listen, Mindy
Kaling is your aunt Steve Saylor, right? Like, I hate to be the old Sargon horseshoe theory, but like at a certain point, both sides have to acknowledge each.
Listen, Mindy Kaling, okay, she's incredibly annoying, and she's a libtard, but fellas, no, I'm kidding. No. I mean, she's not ugly. It's just, you know, I mean, I don't know. I shouldn't say anything.
How old is she?
My GF is Irish, but
maybe 20 years ago when she was 24, but not. She's 44 now, so no, thank you. Pass.
You know what's crazy is that like it's always an Italian guy and an Irish woman. I was telling my.
Oh, like the two places that have the highest like concentration of Catholics. Say it ain't so.
I couldn't believe it. Yeah, like I couldn't believe it. Like I'm literally the stereotype.
I like the resigned and defeated no from Prude. That's like every episode when we talk about women, bro.
No, it's great. Like, listen, I'm not like it's just crazy. Like Italian BF, Irish GF. That's like a common, yeah. Anyways,
it's the Vatican's attempt to create a Nordic Mediterranean hybrid.
yeah. Well, because you know that the Irish apparently they have the highest percentage of like H1. What is it? The Hyperborean haplogroup. It's H1.
I thought it was R1b.
R1b. Yeah, apparently, Irish have the highest percentage of R1b outside of Scandinavia, and Italians have some of the lowest.
I can't do their accents. Like I'm not. Oh, no internet friend. That's a flu virus. I can't do the like Irish or the British Isles. The accent just turns me off.
So in case you're wondering, I mean, I'm with a white person. So
yeah.
That's not.
And plus, Roberts and them didn't. Chief Justice John Roberts is the same guy that did not take up any sort of election case against the 2020 stuff.
Oh yeah, he infamously took a mulligan in that.
Yeah, he infamously said no. So like that's precedent now.
Yeah. Holy shit! Fucking George Bush, eh? Like he always was a libtard. Like it's. Yeah.
It's so sad. But yeah, I mean that's the nature of it all. Is this? Although the one little piece of news that I thought was interesting was that the Venezuelans, Governor Ron DeSantis dropped in Martha's Vineyard last fall as a political stunt, are thriving. I did not even know where Martha's Vineyard was. Now I feel welcome by everyone here. I'm working, making friends. This is home for me now. He sent how many migrants up there?
What was it, like 50?
He sent like 50 migrants up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the number of people that stayed, 4 of them.
Yeah.
And Miss Caro is one of the 4 migrants who have quietly stayed behind in Martha's Vineyard, forming bonds with the community that opened the doors with what doors it could. Mrs. Caro, 25, is working as a landscaper. Her brother, Daniel, 29, her cousin, Eliud Aguilar, 28, found jobs in painting and roofing.
They're working as a
landscaping, roofing, and contractors. Literally, again, the liberals are just like, well, who will clean your toilets, Mr. Trump? Apparently, there they are.
Yeah, like all these, like, to quote Michael Savage, like the quiche eating coastal liberals are like the rich coastal quiche eaters are like employing
incredibly keyed.
Oh, very keyed. Like this is like Scott Greer Groiper tier, like of keyed. Like it's
yeah. Daniel's brother also stayed behind to work on the island. He's working as a painter's apprentice. He's literally. There's a picture of him here. I'll just share it.
Yeah.
Or I'll share the screen so everyone can enjoy. Again, racist liberals versus temporarily embarrassed racist liberals.
Yeah.
Here you go. There he is.
Whoa!
Our Ron DeSantis stunt of the year, and he's doing exactly what Who's gonna paint your walls, Mr. Trump? Well, apparently this guy. I don't know what else. Like, what a ridiculous world we live in. Everyone needs one. Yeah.
But anyways, it's wow. That is crazy. That's like. Yeah,
we'll mow our own damn lawns.
Our own lawns. America, that's a national pastime in America. Mowing lawns.
Man,
like Hank Hill.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a clean burning hell right there. This is where we're at.
America's turning into a clean burning hell.
This is my hell.
No, actually, Canada's turning into an unclean burning hell.
That's true.
So Canada's turning into a smog infested hell.
All those wildfires.
Yeah. That are suddenly like all across Canada, by the way, from Vancouver Island all the way to the prairies, all the way to Winnipeg, from Winnipeg, Ontario, and to Vancouver. There's wildfire and the Laurentians in Quebec. Yeah, so that's very funny. I wonder how that's happening.
I wrote a whole dumb little story about like some guy in the Catskill Mountains in New York, just like looking at the mess.
The Canadians, like
what are you doing up there?
Canadians have gone insane.
I couldn't help but laugh that the 4 people out of like the 50 or so that went to Martha's Vineyard, they're still there, just as landscapers, lawn care people.
Yeah, like
what a unfathomable. But speaking of Hispanic, politics, like apparently the governor of Miami, Mr. Suarez or whatever, he had his own "What is Aleppo" moment, or "Where is Aleppo?" Because someone asked him on like NBC News, like, "Well, what do you think about the Uyghurs?" He's like, "Well, what's a Uyghur?" And
Oh, I saw that.
I was
Yeah.
just like, like, great. Like, you don't need to care what a Uyghur is. Like, how are you gonna go? Like, what's your policy on taxes? Like, how are you gonna like kick the rest of your buddies out?
You
So
know what's funny? There is this viral video on YouTube about like how to spot propaganda, where it's like this supposed like intelligence officer guy, where he's like, "This is how you spot like a fake influencer," and it's like some like westernoid like influencer, and he's got like Chinese handlers. And he's like, "These people are talking about G-word hiding the Uyghurs, but the Uyghurs are happy and they have like a restaurant and blah blah
are
blah."
they literally doing the whole other camp
Yeah,
posting type of? Oh boy.
yeah, like, and so this like former intelligence officer is like, "This is how you spot the Chinese. They have like an army of handlers with this Western influencer that's like talking about misinformation." And I'm like, doesn't the West do that against like people that they're historically
Yeah.
going after? Like,
Yes.
it's like, okay, maybe they don't have explicit
Oh
handlers,
man,
but
governments commit disinformation campaigns. News at 11.
yeah,
Like
that's where I turned the
absolutely,
video off. I'm like,
absolutely. I know, right? Like, I'm
yeah,
done, right?
yeah, and I don't
But
even particularly like the Chinese government. I'm just saying, like,
I have to laugh my butt off here because it's just like, what did America take advantage of in Afghanistan? Oh well, there's the Wakhan corridor in Afghanistan that goes right into the Xinjiang province of China,
do they
which
have a
has the highest
McDonald's there?
concentration of Muslims in like the western part of the Chinese country and
Yeah,
territory. And
yeah.
where did all these like East Turkmenistan Islamic movements and all these other groups come in from? And then all of a sudden it's just like, oh geez, we pulled out of Afghanistan, but all these weapons are conveniently left behind. And so in like 15 years time from like today and 15 years ago, you had all these like news reports of like stabbings and like Islamic terror attacks like China, and now you
Yeah.
don't see them anymore. I wonder why.
Oh, it's
It's
almost like
like
they got, to
found the
quote
solution.
Apocalypse Now. It's almost like they got the right people. Like,
It's almost as if they didn't waste their time and got after the right people.
like Colonel Kurtz.
What a weird time.
Yeah. Like,
Um,
okay, like I'm not endorsing like what they're doing to the Uyghurs, but still, it's like geopolitically, America, like, what they're doing. They're using it to weaken their main competitor in China. Like that's like same with Trudeau here in Canada. Trudeau is like breaking the orthodoxy that his stepfather, is breaking the orthodoxy that Pierre has done, where like they're bowing down to China. Trudeau, for the first time in the Canadian Liberal Party's history, is actually saying fuck you to the Chinese, but still letting the Chinese basically exploit our housing market. But when it comes to the optics
oh,
end,
same, bro, same.
yeah, yeah. So the whole policy that Trudeau has against the Chinese when it comes to the Uyghurs is totally incoherent. Because why are you still letting the Chinese exploit our housing market? Like it does. Oh, but optically though, we're against the Chinese when it comes to the whole Xinjiang Uyghurs.
Are you saying that Justin Trudeau has recognized that this is the hour of decision?
I think so.
Oh man.
It's true. No, but I had my optic-friendly take against the H-1 visas in Canada and America. I didn't do that yet. But about the Uyghur, okay, so about Aleppo, right?
God, that's so entertaining. I remember that.
Yeah, like the Aleppo thing. Like, for example, if you look at the map of Syria and you look at where Aleppo is, Syria is like strikingly close to Russia. And the Russians, they had like sort of an agreement with the Syrians. I think it even predates the Soviet Union, but definitely during the Soviet Union, there was that sphere of influence, right? Because that part of the Middle East is very close to Russia, like within busing distance of Russia, right? So when people talked about why is it that Wagner and the GRU, the special forces, are in Syria, that's why. That's why Russia has a historical sphere of influence in the Middle East through Syria, right? But of course, a lot of people in the West are, well, not educated about these things. So they're like, why is it the Russians, why are they going to involve our coup in Syria? Why are they going to get their hands in the color revolution? Why would the Russians be invested in stopping the color revolution against Assad in Syria? I wonder why, right?
Yeah, geez.
Yeah.
Raises interesting questions, you know.
You mean other powers have geopolitical interests besides America?
Oh my God, say it ain't so.
But really
My
quickly.
shawarma guys from Aleppo. Well, you know
Oh,
what? I guarantee you that.
it's pretty good shawarma though.
I bet you has. Especially say it's probably really good. It's probably really good shawarma.
Yeah.
And that the former governor of New Mexico doesn't know who he is.
We have a lot of Syrians here in Canada. I went to school with a guy that was Syrian. I shouldn't say his name, but like he went to Syria to like fund the rebuilding. And I wonder what happened to him. You know how I know? Because I gave him, he was a really smart dude. His name was Madge. And I'm not going to say his last name, but he was a really smart dude. You know how I know? Because I gave him a copy of before Francis Collins went insane, when he was like owning the New Atheists.
Yeah.
What was it called? His book, The DNA of God.
Oh, I don't recall the title.
I love this book. It was about theistic evolution. And I gave my friend Madge this book, but he like never returned it because then he went to Syria. And not that I care, but like, yeah. So if like,
hope he's okay, bro.
Yeah, I hope so. Like it's, Gio wants to dox this guy so bad.
He wants his books back. You're gonna dox this guy on air, and then he's gonna get killed by like some Kurdish rebel forces. Like, don't do it, Gio.
Yeah, you know what's funny? And then because my mother like wrote my name in the book, so like if the federal government in Canada like ever went through his stuff in case
Bashar al-Assad's reading your library. Like he just domed your guy who stole your books. Then he's just like, oh, he's got a good library. Shame I domed him. But you know.
Yeah, Language of God. That's what it was. So imagine like my copy of Language of God is in Syria right now in some rubble heap.
Yeah, press F for Gio's Syrian friend, because let's face it, that dude's probably gone.
Yeah. No, but I don't think he was.
I don't even know what Ramadan.
Oh man, he was a good. Like I really like. I hope he's still around. Yeah, press F for Madge. He was a great dude. I really like the guy. He was very soft. I don't think he was a rebel fighter. I honestly think he was just fundraising for people in Syria. I don't think he was. I mean, I could be shocked if he was, but yeah, press F for Madge in the chat. But no, my most optical take on the immigration thing is that, okay, so I remember back like normie cons used to have this argument that if you were to like let them in here to like educate them as doctors and lawyers, then they go back to their own country, and not only did they deprive Western people of educations here in terms of university placements, but then they just go back to their own countries like China, and they go back to India and elsewhere, right? But the thing is that they don't go back. They want to stay here, right? And they'll even like evade the Chinese government to like stay here. So, but the thing is the doctor shortages are incredible in Canada. So you have like the worst of both worlds. Not only are you depriving Western people of an education here through these placements in these like, tech industry or medical school or like lawyerships, but you have like a demographic problem where our country in Canada cannot sustain them, like, all these services through like mostly education and healthcare, because healthcare is the biggest cost out of everything in Canada, as you know, right? But you're depriving these countries of having their own rigorous education systems by having the best and brightest of those countries being offloaded to places in America, Canada, Britain.
So Spanish was like IQ shredder.
Exactly. But it's a reverse IQ shredder, because not only are you fucking over like lower class people here, right? But you're also depriving these places, you're brain draining them. And so these countries will be more dysfunctional. And then you'll have more migrant crises in places like Europe, and it will disrupt the global equilibrium, the ecology of high IQ people in these countries that could help and benefit these countries in their countries, right? So that's my most optical argument against this whole fetish that these Canadian bureaucrats have when it comes to poaching H-1B visas, is that you're basically on both ends Nobody benefits from this because Canadian social services are still hammered, or in America, or in Britain. I mean, Britain, actually, they have a worse healthcare system, the NHS, right? As you know. But Canada's getting there. But you're depriving these countries of their ability to grow through this IQ shredder brain drain, which will only create more poverty, will only create more necessities for migrants to be, coaxed by foreign NGOs who, let's face it, I mean, want to basically destroy the native populations of these countries in Europe. And it's like, it just doesn't benefit anybody. And this is like my most optical friendly, most quote unquote non-racist way of going around this, to say that it really doesn't benefit anybody. And you're actually fucking over. If you're so anti-racist that you care about these poor people throughout the world, right? We're the global citizens. Then you're just destroying these countries by getting them over here. And of course, when they live in Canada and America and Britain, they don't want to go back. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, the problem is that, as Javier points out, that for every one of those highly educated that want to stay here, you got 10, 20, 50 dead weights.
Yeah, that's enough. Yeah. Or they bring their families over. And of course, you can't say no.
And then, of course, you lose millions in terms of remittances.
Oh, and then they send money back. Yeah, remittances. And Canada is like, I think Canada is like one of the world's capitals of like these remittance payments.
That's so do we.
In America,
Western
America
Union, like you go to every, like if you walk into a Walmart right now, like in America, they have those like little shitty banks that like they, little like places where like the guy that cashes his check after like the contract roofing job is done, so he can go get his smack or whatever. Uses, but I mean, he also specializes in remittances. It happens a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, but that's what I mean. Like, America numerically has, I believe, the most remittances throughout the world, but Canada's like right up there in terms of per capita of like migrants that come here. But we can't compare to the amount of money that flows out of America to go back to, because that's the obligation that a lot of these places, like in the African continent, in the subcontinent in Asia, like it's part of their thing, because like a lot of these people, like I know from Brazil, right? My mother's family, being there for a long time. A lot of people in Brazil, they like literally believe that North America is paved with gold that you could just like grab, in terms of economic performance. But it's not the case anymore. And like they're shocked when they come here to see that Canada, it's actually harder to have a stable income, outside of social services. And it's no, so like here's the thing. This is my totally optics friendly, quote unquote non-racist way of critiquing the IQ shredder brain drain. And it just doesn't benefit anybody. So it's just like and of course the problems of having like people with a very radically different way of life and notion of what a civilization is in terms of like Europe or North America. It's like, but you can't say this shit because people think you're a racist, and it's like, maybe you're a racist. I don't know. It's like, I'm just like here. I'm just saying, like, in terms of the way that the sort of the labor pool of high IQ, high skilled people in terms of like a global ecology is fundamentally disrupted by this like global airport liberalism that places like Canada and the US have carved a path for. And it's I'm saying too much, but you get the point.
Yeah. I was sorry. I was just checking out the Marxist screed that Sohrab Armani put out in Compact about.
Let's go this next. Let's go.
Oh, sure. Let's go read some.
Did you have any thoughts about immigration though, Prude, about what I was saying?
Reduce it and kick him out. Simple as.
There you go.
That's the only. I can't go any further without getting myself in trouble. As I was famously told by a certain editor at a prominent news publication, your takes won't get you hired, but you will at least be seen.
There you go.
So my heart is dashed. Anyways, our favorite Iranian immigrant has thoughts to say. My second favorite Iranian immigrant. I love Academic Agent.
Yeah.
On Thursday, the U.S. Supreme Court restricted the use of race as a factor in college admissions, holding that such affirmative action violates the Equal Protection Clause, the U.S. Constitution. Conservatives are celebrating the restoration of the all-American ideal of meritocracy.
Hashtag meritocracy. Hashtag Winthrop in science. Hashtag praxis.
We're never getting meritocracy back, fellas. Just letting you know. The right has long upheld merit and equality of opportunity. I like how he describes the right because he knows he's not a part of it. But anyways,
yeah. Well, look at Mike Oxlong. Gio is so giddy at the sight of I try to stay away, but it's so true. You know what's funny is that Academic Agent. I was so blessed.
So giddy at the sight of drug. I know.
Yeah.
It's a terrible drug, but it feels.
You know what's
so
funny is that Academic Agent was going ham on somebody on Twitter about like the Prigozhin thing, and he added me, and he's like, "You need an education in wrestling and kayfabe. Why don't you go to hashtag Giant Geo to get an education on wrestling?" And I was like, "Oh man, I made it, bro."
Merit. As opposed to the newfangled progressive efforts to achieve equality of outcomes. This is something that Stephen Carson Radlib talked about at the U.S. event, that like equality of outcome is just the progressive, or equality of opportunity is just the dialectical liberal opposite of equality of outcome, but they still lead to the same thing, leads to more social justice. So the conservatives are wrong on the history. The original U.S. ideal was, in fact, much closer to equality of outcomes than proponents of opportunity.
Oh, God. Oh my God.
Okay.
What makes Sir Abba post? Like, listen, because
he's like a first-year generation, like a first-gen immigrant and like a first-generation convert to Catholicism, and he hangs out with Vermeulen and Patrick Deneen. So like that's what makes me post-liberal, bro. I'm post-liberal in the sense that I'm post. I can't even say what I want to say. So like,
all liberal, no post.
That's right.
All rad fem, no, never. Yeah. I can't say that word in YouTube, but
yeah, absolutely. All liberal, no post right here. But we're gonna get a wall of text like a lefty post. So let's dig into it.
Oh boy.
The demise of the current regime, diversocracy, is worth celebrating all the same. So equality of outcomes, then proponents of opportunity, merit and social mobility than you would believe. Buddy, we had an aristocracy, but okay. A classic
America
articulation.
Had a pretty deep aristocracy.
We still do. We still have pretty deep WASP money. And
Canada actually had a bold. Like if you talk to like Black Horse and like Settlers the Men, Canada had a pretty strong aristocracy because of the British. But yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
again, this is why like George Grant is on the money when he talks about like the Americanization of Canada. Like it's so depressing. I lament for Canada. And I'm not even Canadian.
No, but America had it. Like, go to like. I know people think he's annoying, but Christopher Sandbach has taken more W's on this question in his conceptual history.
I will continue to have him on as a guest. I don't care if people think he's a goober. He's my favorite person on the internet. A classic articulation of the right's equality of opportunity ideal came in the 2011 Heritage Foundation. It came much earlier than this.
Oh God,
And this came from Buckley. This did not come from Paul Ryan. Then a rising congressman. Those who believe in equality of opportunity, Ryan said, follow the American ideal that justice is done when we level the playing field at the starting line and rewards who are proportionate for merit and effort. By contrast, those who promote equality of outcome blame most differences in wealth and rewards are on luck or exploitation and believe that few really deserve what they have, a false morality that confuses fairness and redistribution and promotes class envy instead of social mobility. Ryan's polemical targets were mainly the economic redistributionists of the traditional left, though the logic of his argument could easily extend to the racial redistributionists and defenders of affirmative action. The problem is that the American tradition, the real tradition, a man who has nothing that he can trace this tradition back to in his own bloodline, has been airbrushed, only promoted by a right-wing think tanks at the retreats for the GOP congressional interns. It's far more complicated, and it cuts against the attempts to reduce the American idea to mere meritocracy and social mobility. Rather, many of the early protagonists of the American story were anxious about the ramifications of inequality for self-rule. Could Americans encounter each other as political equals if many millions lacked enough property and material security to be invested in the system? Gee, I wonder if that's why it took like 100 some odd years before we even addressed your right to vote. Again, the Virginia House of Burgesses. What was that? White property owning males, and particularly of aristocratic or at least business stock. The earliest statesmen were thought a virtuous self-governing republic required a modestly propertied and competent citizenry. Mm-hmm. Yes, and the people that were, again, it was classist as hell. They fretted about an industrial urban economy that would breed men without property and principle, as the founding father John Dickinson put it. Yes, he did. James Madison fearfully prophesied future times when a great majority of the people will not only be without landed, but any other means of property. Now we're quote mining for like Marxy takes on like land and rights ownership.
I was waiting for how he's gonna twist it.
I was waiting for the knife to twist. The rabble that would either destroy liberty or become tools of opulence and ambition. Well, ironically, that already came. Like, and it wasn't, they were by property owners. Like, what changed the system was literally the Jacksonian revolution for how we started voting in like the Great Frontier. But okay, you know, we got to make this about, you know, my heckin' Marxist materialist dialectics here, fellas.
No, but this notion that like these countries, like they were worried about like the rabble, so they had to like have egalitarianism. Yeah, exactly. Buckley was kayfabe artist number one. That they have to like worry about it, like, oh, we need some egalitarianism because they're going to prevent people from like rising up. And like, that's first of all, that's like sort of a Marxist take on history. It's like a vulgar Marxist take on history. And second
he's
of all,
a vulgar Marxist. What else is?
No, but second of all, if you actually look at like the legal precedent, the class that the founding fathers are operating under from England. I mean, England being like one of the most class-based societies in human history. I mean, even Rome, even like ancient Iran, even like, you know, like every society never had this like goober equality notion. They always had social mechanisms to regulate a class-based society. I'm not saying that it's right or wrong or whatever. I'm just saying like this is the reality of it. Yeah, exactly. What like wholesome Chungus founding fathers. There you go. It's like wholesome Chungus egalitarian founding fathers. I'm sorry, but that's not real.
Like, you know, the real founding
It's American is apple. Yeah, it's logo.
Yeah, Marxism. American is apple pie.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. And again, Christopher Lash. It is true. Yet as the hetero equality of opportunity ran through the early tradition, yet as the heterodox historian Christopher Lash showed, this wasn't a rags to riches ideal. The mere possibility that few of the poorest could attain grand wealth, including through their education, wasn't what bound Americans to their newborn nation. Rather, equality of opportunity, Lash argued, meant that most Americans owned a little property and worked for a living. Yeah, because it didn't live under a system that, like today's economy to own property versus say 1790 form of owning property, totally different.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until after the Industrial Revolution that something resembling the Paul Ryan ideal of social mobility began to edge out. This is where you also get the popular libertarian argument or like the pro-capitalist argument that actually we can lift up more people as we continue to industrialize, which indeed we did. Yeah. This began to grind at the halt by the dawn of the Jacksonian era. I mean, the Jacksonian era ushered in like mass democratic politics in this country. Also, we were much more learned men back then. Even
was Jackson based or cringe?
Mixed bag. Financially cringe, domestically okay.
He really hated us Canadians, though.
Well, I don't blame him, but
he hated, he hated Anglosphere Canada. He waged a war against it.
I mean, but no, I mean, like, actually, I would highly recommend his position on the national bank is actually a much more tawdry affair than people give it credit for, because like he kind of kowtows to like British like financial interest in the country. Which almost borderline brings up the concept of like economic like trader, but that raises whole other questions.
It defeats the point about going after the British and Canada.
Well, yes, and then arguably no. It depends on your viewpoints on like financial policy in the first state, like the First National Bank of America. But that's a history stream I need to have Sandbatch on because he's more versed in that than I am. It was only after the Jeffersonian ideal of equality had been utterly buried in that this new idea of social mobility took off. As Lash noted, the phrase itself entered the common parlance when the hierarchical structure of American society could no longer be ignored. As far as some intellectuals were concerned, notice how he's quote mined a few founding fathers, and we've just got Christopher Lash. As far as some intellectuals were concerned, though, it no longer mattered whether workers as a class. There, we got it, boys. It's right there. Could enjoy the older mode of equality. That is, as long as the gifted among them could be recruited to the top, reinvigorating the elite class with fresh blood and lending legitimacy to the whole order. Even into the 1920s and 30s, you still had a deep-set New England aristocratic class that ran the country. And if you want a good example of this, go to like the memoirs of George F. Kennan. George F. Kennan was like a guy born and lived with his single father, like lived with his dad after his mom died, and was like some dude bumfuck middle of nowhere in like Wisconsin. I think he was like like early turn of the century Milwaukee. Like not a place that is bustling with economic activity, or educational greatness. What is Milwaukee known for? Outside of its hockey team, it's known for red letter media and beer. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
It's still the case. But I mean, like, even he recognized that he was not of this class, but you could still get in if you were smart enough. That's sort of the way that the system was intended. Anyways, the vision of men like Harvard President James Conant, who in the early 1930s argued that higher education's chief mission was to ensure the circulation of elites. This is still the case. It's still how it is today. We just have really gay elites. As Lash noted, left unspoken the loss of the Jeffersonian equality. We never had it. Going forward, it sufficed to legitimate the system as a whole for white Protestant. Notice that, lowercase.
Wow.
Anyways, to periodically elevate the children of other groups, even if this meant a relatively diminished status for the scions of WASP Regency. As a bonus, fresh blood and brains would actually redound to the benefit of the power structure, which was already beginning to glimpse a globalized marketplace and a more diverse home market following the massive immigration waves of the late 19th and early 20th centuries. It's in this backdrop of affirmative action emerged in the 1960s in the wake of the whole civil rights movement. What became of affirmative action as we know was partially a response to the historic disenfranchisement, and not an unreasonable one at that time, but it also jived with was an outgrowth of concern of men's like Conant for the need of elite circulation. I don't think Conant would have ever thought that Ketanji Jackson Brown was
or
an
Vivek Kumaraswamy.
Or
Vivek Raper.
Or Sonia Sotomayor is an elite.
Yeah.
But again, we have to transpose the ideas of like white Anglo-Saxon Protestant equality, and we have to transfix it into this like historical revisionism for my heckin' multiracial post-liberal future. But yeah, when it comes to the choice between a meritocratic regime that took hold beginning in the late 19th century and the weird diversocracy for a more recent vintage meritocracy is preferable because it is some semblance of rational, non-racialized competition and is less prone to political gaming by hucksters of various stripes. But right-wingers who are cheering the Supreme Court's affirmative action decision still must reckon with the reality that today in the United States it takes an average of 6 generations for the advantages associated with inherited family wealth to disappear. Yes, the libs are angry today, but the nation's Jeffersonian ghosts are angrier still.
What's he trying to say here? It's a mess.
The nation's Jeffersonian ghosts are like the white people that got screwed over. I don't think I'd ever see a pro-white take from Sohrab, but there you go.
No, but I don't understand what he's trying to say here. Like, what's his thesis? Like, my mind is a blank when he's throwing together all of this, like, extrapolation.
How many 6 years of generations? You would say 6 generations in the last 100 years between 1920 and 2020. Generation silent are the silent generation, baby boomers, Gen X, millennials, Gen Z, and then right before that, I guess would be like anyone like the GI generation.
Yeah, there's middle generations.
Yeah, the middle generation. So GI, silent, baby boomers, Gen X, millennials, Gen Z. So there's 6. So 100 years, right? It's weird that Jackson advocated for equality considering his own views for Native Americans. Well, equality for one group versus equality for another is totally different. Yeah. Plus, the laws that it would initiate the infamous Trail of Tears were actually signed into law before Jackson was even elected.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Jackson's base for breaking up the national bank. Well, default friend, your good friend Christopher Sandbach would tell you that it's actually an act of being of treason. And with respects to British financial interests, which only would help speculate the cotton market economy and be a major contributing factor towards the Civil War. King Cotton Diplomacy by Frank Lawrence is a great read on that respect. So yeah, workers aren't real. Workers are real. It's just that the difference between like tankies of today, where they're like, guy that, does a little dance when he puts popcorn into a bag at the movie theater. I don't think that's a worker. Whereas like guys that would like break their backs and get black lung and die of disease in a coal mine, that's a worker.
Get miner's lung.
Yeah.
That's like logos saying that like Starbucks baristas aren't
workers of the world unite, guys. It's so true and so tiresome.
But what's Sohrab trying to argue here? Is he trying to argue that like America was always wholesome Chungus egalitarianism?
I mean, we don't It no longer mattered whether workers as a class could enjoy an older mode of equality. I mean, like, we have an unprecedented level of material comfort. I don't think we have like equality, like,
Yeah.
but we're not equality cannot be achieved. Like, this is the fundamental difference here. This is like egalitarian utopianism, whether in the form of Marxism or liberalism, cannot be ascertained and never will be. The only place where you can even remotely get that is not of this earth, and even then, in heaven, it's still a hierarchy, and there's still not equality. Like, don't know what to tell you. We're all gonna have to answer to somebody. Like, it's a mess.
But that's what I mean. This is what I asked Martin once. I'm like, where do the post-liberals stand? Like, what are they? Like, what makes them post-liberal? Like, I'm so confused by these people like Sarab and Adrian Vermeule. Like, what makes them, like, what moves them on against these like assumptions? Because here's the thing. Like, when you were reading that, Prude, I just remember like the work of like Butts Borstein in Deculturation. Because, like, I'm reading it for my book, obviously rereading it.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's this marriage of like, of kitsch liberal like left liberal progressivism with like hardcore economic, like hardcore economic neoliberal massification of like, we must let the GDP flow no matter what. And if this necessitates like the movement of global peoples and like, we always had equality, Mahek and wholesome Chungus liberalism, then so be it, right? So like, it's funny because he's trying to escape liberalism, but Sarab Ahmari is like, these are like core like libtarded assumptions about like the founding fathers and like this like second vision of America being like inherently egalitarian and heckin' wholesome Chungus. We were always going to accommodate the Ellis Islanders, and me, even like me being a son of an Ellis Islander, it's like I realize like this is just cool. Exactly, heckin' wholesome Chungus.
That's a good one. I would use that in the future. Yeah, because back in
true.
base times, meaning owning property meant being pseudo renters to large banks. Yeah, and I wasn't being taxed for my property in the way that I'm being taxed now. Again, like trying to transliterate like historical laws, precedents, cultures, and people to like modern, like it's historicism.
Yeah,
and even worse,
exactly.
it's historicism and it's presentism combined in this ugly synthesis of like, well, actually, we need to just get rid of both, man. It's all awful. But like, that's the question I don't get with post-liberalism. Like, even from the bits and pieces I've seen, and I've only skimmed through it because of quotations online, like of regime change, there's no alternative being offered other than just a need for a new counter elite, which has been said for like the last 15, 20 years. And no one's got that.
No, but that's what I mean. Like it's almost like they want to preserve all of the excesses of liberalism. They just want some kind of like, I don't know, like communitarian, like wholesome Chungus religious
sprinkle
agreement.
some integralism in it. Like I don't know.
But what's he trying to say here in this article? Like, what's his argument against meritocracy in the right wing sense? Is he saying that like, oh, that meritocracy is not going to benefit you because you're a fucking redneck from Appalachia? Like, is that what he's trying to say? Like, I don't understand.
I mean, they're the ones that got screwed the most.
Yeah.
Out of all of this deal, but like, is that deep WASP money talking? I don't know if you could argue that who's deep WASP money talking.
Yeah, what WASP? Yeah, like
yeah,
what?
Let me know, because like neither Geo nor myself come from deep WASP money.
Yeah.
Post-liberal, it's the old anyone driving faster than you is a maniac, anyone driving slower is an idiot test for liberalism.
Holy shit, that's true.
What a great way to appropriate George Carlin.
Yeah. No, but like that's what I mean. Like I when you were reading that, I'm just confused as to what his main critique is. Like, why shouldn't we be celebrating the ending of this? Apart from that, it's not going to do anything. But apart from like that right wing critique of it's actually not going far enough.
Oh no! Like I don't think that they run the show. I mean, there is still deep WASP money.
Oh yeah.
I just don't think that they're like at the heart of our current crop of elite. Like there are still a lot of WASPs at the top, and a lot of elite circulation has changed where it's not so. It's
a
not
lot of them
like,
are lib now.
Well, a lot of them are. I mean, New England libs especially, but they kind of ushered in this to a large extent. But I don't think of you. I appreciate you not thinking of me as like some deep pocket money WASP kind of guy. Although I kind of wish I was in part because I wouldn't be here. But it's the same thing with teal bucks. If I had teal bucks, I'd own a house. Like let's not kid ourselves here. Like, there's still a large chunk of that, yeah, and the institutions that they fostered. Ironically, I was saying this at the U.S. event where they do have that deep lost money talking, yeah. But the thing we were talking about at the U.S. event was in conversation was like, ironically, like the Ben Shapiro talking point from like 2010, where he was like, actually, yeah, like this social justice stuff that we're seeing is just like the revolutionaries of the 1960s being eaten by their own progeny. And the revolution guys of the 1960s were being eaten by like that social white man's burden egalitarianism of like the 1930s. Like, yeah, I mean, like there's a truth to that. There is
Progressivism always tends to eat itself eventually.
Yeah. And what's funny though about like the progressive aspect of it is like it's in a lot of ways it's like a moribund. What's the word I'm looking for? Like it's a. I mean, all men are equal before God, but like at this time, God wants there to be tribes, nations, and borders. And at no point in time in Christian history until more recently has there ever been an open desire to admonish my ancestors, destroy my nation of the people that it once had and existed, and to ensure that the people that are around me can be anything except, God-fearing people. And so
well, that's what you say.
we've
Even
flipped it
destroyed
on its
the
head.
religion of our ancestors as well.
Yeah, like the religion of my ancestors is gone.
Yeah.
I wasn't raised in any particular tradition either. That's how far it's gone. And like I have family that goes all the way back to the beginning. It's that kind of a mess that things have been in. And I kind of think that this transitions very well actually into the whole trailer park. Discourse.
Yeah. Look at Mike Oxlong here. Some of these incels should stop riding the tiger and start riding some cougars. Well, well,
that could almost be a Howling Mutant tweet.
Yeah, it should be a Howling Mutant.
That's a Howling Mutant tweet. Like I'm impressed. Wow, chef's kiss.
Well, Mike.
Also, where's Mr. Hertz?
Yeah.
Where's Mike Hawk? Where's he?
Riding some cougars. Well,
maybe he's riding some cougars.
I'm not gonna say anything, but never mind.
You can earn your stripes, Gio.
Well,
that's an animal joke, but anyways.
I know. Yeah. But no, I'm not going to say anything about that particular observation, Mike Oxlund. But anyways.
Well, so yeah, I guess like we also, I wanted to share this before we transition real quick. We're having a good show this week.
Oh yeah. Well, to make up for it,
the energy is
dying.
Back.
People were dying for this show, so.
Someone made the.
Oh my god.
Barbie Oppenheimer 2024 map.
Oh, based off of like first week ticket sales? Oh my god. This is I'm surprised at Texas. Wonderful.
I'm seeing so three movies are coming out on the 21st of July. The Venture Brothers movie, Oppenheimer, and Barbie.
Whoa. We would review all of them, Prude.
I'm watching all of them, and I think I'm gonna have TR Hudson on to talk about the Venture Brothers movie because he and I are diehard fans of that old Adult Swim animation, and it's back. It's not even out yet. Yes, and people make maps all the time about what political election results look like. Welcome to Twitter, sir.
That's right, anime enthusiast. Mike Hawk was one of the original Inner Circle along with me. So
look at that. Yeah. Go Team Venture, absolutely. Total Barbie victory. It's gonna happen. And I know it's gonna be submersive. As like everyone's going to look at this film, and this is how great the Ryan Gosling psyop is. Barbie is going to be transgressive, subversive, and you've already got like a troon Barbie actor in there.
Oh no, really?
It's yeah.
We need a woman's opinion on this. Kate J, are you going to see Oppenheimer or Barbie the first opening week? I shouldn't even ask this, but like,
not too late. She's in the chat. Well, Kate J and Catherine D, you're both in here.
Yeah.
What are y'all watching first? Is it Barbie or Oppenheimer?
I'm gonna text my GF right now to say like, what do you want to watch first?
Whoa, I heard that. Isolate clip. Text my GF that right now. We've certified fake sale cotton 4K. It's over.
I'm not we're taking it slow. I'm not a fake sell yet. Okay. But I'm gonna have to text her, right? Fake sell.
It's over. Yeah. It's so you heard it here. God, I got a piece of history. It's so good. I know. It's a total.
I know, eh?
Total femoid victory. It's so over. It's
well, Mike Oxlund ride the cougar. Never mind. I'm waiting on Kate J to respond. Yeah, I know it's Joe over. I know. Yeah.
No.
It's a new Geo.
So which ones are Catherine and Kate J? Please tell us. which ones are you seeing first? Because I haven't decided which one I will see first. I might watch Oppenheimer as like the pregame, just so I can enjoy giant Geo. He's throwing away his Geo Dakimakura. That's terrifying. You got a body pillow with Geo on it.
Oh boy! Oh, we could make money off of that.
You probably
Be a
could.
pretty big one, but
Oh, so I found out. I got a message from Cine, by the way, about like the animation project he's working on. He's got to finish a video game thing first, which also has a frog character. And he asked me to voice act it, so I said yes. So I can add voice actor to my like resume, which is pretty cool. I think I'm gonna see Oppenheimer first, and then Barbie. And I'm literally gonna walk into that movie theater with my like black sort of like meeting thing with like those nice black binders to hold presentations and files, and it's gonna just be me writing the whole movie.
Nice.
It'll be great because like Peachy Keenan's actually gonna put out like a Barbie review day one, and I'm actually looking forward to that.
Yeah.
I've been waiting. Oh, there.
Oh my gosh, she said. Okay, by the way, KJ. Okay, go KJ first.
Yeah. Been wanting Hollywood to make a Barbie movie since I was a little girl, but we'll probably see Oppenheimer first because that seems like a safer bet. There you go. There you go.
My GF texted me back. She wants to see Oppenheimer first.
All right. Total Oppenheimer victory.
Yeah. No. Is she a chubby? No, she's not an art hoe. She's a classicist, Berg.
All right.
Yeah, I'm not joking.
You got like the female version of Christopher Sandbach. Let's go.
Yeah, like, but for like, Greek and Latin. So
imagine I've done the Lindsey Graham voice on air more times than I care to count. I can do a French accent. I can do quite a few things with that, but we'll have to wait until the game comes out. Yes, I'll have to ask. Sorry, I'm putting this one up first. It's funny. The classic Irish dilemma of do you eat your potato now or allow it to ferment and drink it later?
No, she eats it now. It's not. No, she's not that type of Irish.
So I guess this brings us to sort of conclude for our talking points before we go to the super chats.
I guess I'm gonna have to go when I drive to the States. I'm gonna have to see Oppenheimer with her now.
Yeah.
Man.
So the thing to consider is going to be the trailer park discourse we had.
Oh no!
I missed it, and I wrote about it yesterday or the other day because
I shared that. I like that article.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you.
I think you hit the nail on the head.
That was I had so many comments on that one. I was like, oh no, I kicked the high.
Can you bring it up? Bring it up. I want to let's go over it a little bit.
We can. Let me go pull up the Substack first. So for context, I missed it last week because I had to get ready to move and things like that. Where did I get this map? This map came from Emmett Sandberg on Twitter, a progressive Midwestern boy. He/him tweets reflect my views alone. Unfortunately, this banger tweet is made by the worst person imaginable.
No, but look at this by Brent. Gio, you have a girlfriend. You wouldn't know her. She literally lives in a different country.
You wouldn't know her, bro.
You don't know her. She has
a totally different phone code, bro.
Yeah.
Totally different country. She got a whole different social security, bro.
She's American, but she lives fairly close to me. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, so that's the thing that we're talking about in this respect is you personally know that guy. That's kind of sad. Every time Gio says my name, a true cell loses his virginity. My cock's long. My cock's long. My sock's long.
Oh my god, that's what it is! Oh, I
can't believe it took you 5 seconds to get that.
Yeah, and I usually have much more of a perverted mind than you. So it's like, yeah, I totally am like Mo Sislak right now. Yeah, my cock's long. My cock's. I say my cock's long.
That's so good. I love how we just have people.
Yeah.
I love y'all's usernames. I love that you fuck with us. It's the chat. The chat is just as much a character in the digital archipelago.
I can't wait for someone to change their name to like Geo is communist or something like Ghost, like OG.
Oh, I like Giant Geo Graper on Twitter.
Yeah, Giant Geo Graper. Shout out. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. At Restored Order.
Yeah. There you go. So yeah, that's
who had this take? Can you throw up this take, by the way?
Which one? Which take?
You said it was by a terrible person.
Oh no, that was the Barbie map. made by some progressive Midwestern boy.
Oh God, like a literal hicklib.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But so
Jay Burden will never say my name correct.
of course he won't, because Jay Burden looks like Cillian Murphy. It scared the crap out of me when I met him. I was like, jeez.
How Gifts and Given ever recover? Well, Gifts and
about-
Given had her chance. Okay, so it's
there we go. Be the bigger man. Be the bigger man.
I can't cast shade. Gifts and Given's still a good friend of mine. In fact, I don't know if I should drop it because we haven't done it yet, but we have to set up date for recording. But Gifts and Given floated this idea of doing a Content Minded with her and Ariel Pink. So I'm going to make that a reality, hopefully this coming month. So
there you go.
Yeah. I have a bunch of good episodes. I'm recording a solo one because I couldn't find anyone who was that into it. So for next week, I'm going to put out a solo one where I just basically riff on Fish Tank Live. Jay Bird cannot tell a lie.
That's why you can't say those words. So true. Oh man, 11 notifications. Jeez Louise. Thank you, fucking Substack. So yeah, no, this is based off the thread Kruptos had last Monday, I want to say. Which has almost 1 million views on Twitter. And it of course is the white, double wide home, mobile home type who is talking about trailer park 22-year-old mama for a day in the life of, I guess, which of course, yes, she has an OnlyFans.
Yes, she had that certain medical procedure.
I will make it clear to those that probably hated that take that he put out that our boy Kruptos is not a Marxist. He's not a communist. He's not a socialist. He's another Leaf. He's a dad, and he is a pastor in the Reformed Neo-Calvinist tradition. But I felt the need to get out of that. Also, Kruptos did not know about the OnlyFans when he made the tweet. Not this again. It will be very quick. We didn't get a chance to talk about it. That's why we're talking about it now.
I can also attest that a lot of people that were shading on him, he's like way whiter than a lot of people that were casting shade. Put it that way. I know him.
Moment. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. No, he's like the closest to heritage Leaf you can ever imagine. So
yeah, he's old stock Leaf is the best thing I can say in that respect.
He almost looks like Rudiger Hauer, by the way. I'm not joking.
He does? Unfathomably based.
But like old Rudiger Hauer. But yeah, he looks. He's got the silver hair and everything. Yeah,
that's the movie I'm thinking of. So like Blind Fury.
Yeah, like that Rudiger Hauer.
Like that Rutger Hauer.
Yeah.
I watched that movie because Red Letter Media did it, but it was fun.
If you could imagine,
if
you could imagine like the most like Mennonite phenotype, it's like that's Kruptos. Yeah.
Like there's a large Mennonite community in El Paso, and they would always if you think he's a bad take machine, then don't listen to him, Zach. Like it's that simple. But
a lot of people think he's a coal poster, okay? And like you can realize he's like older than us. He's not like
he's like my dad's age.
Yeah.
If not,
the dude has a lot of kids, okay? Like he has no time for this internet autism, okay? Like he's a great writer, and but anyways,
he didn't even argue that it was trad. That's the thing that kills me. Like I feel like all that he did was like pluck a thread out and said, okay, no one likes to be white trash. But at the same time, when we talk about things like the opioid crisis, immigration, the things that predominantly tend to affect like rural Appalachians, where the Sackler family will call them pillbillies. The question becomes, do you look at them and hate the poor, like Mr. Lindyman likes to say, or do you recognize that they might be just as fucked as you are, and if not the living embodiment of what comes when we destroy culture? That was the thing.
Yeah, no, but that's what I mean. Like, if you like look at the history of America and the Appalachians, and you look at like the actual like Southern people, like they were economically impoverished, right? But if you look at like their culture and like a lot of their like folk ways of doing things, like these people were like, it's not just like a salt of the earth sort of like Mexican wholesome working class thing. Like these people had their own like traditions and ways of life and their own like folk takes on Christianity. And it's like really like it's fascinating the history of like the Appalachians and the Southern people in America. Like it's they were not like any of this like modern post-industrial collapse, like post-industrialism, like pillbilly, white trash, trailer park, like meth head type of stereotype at all. Like this is like a uniquely like modern degradation of these people. And it was done for a variety of different, but I'm just stealing your takes, Prude. You go ahead.
Oh no, most of my take was already made when we talked about the fact that like what destroyed black culture in the 1960s has utterly eviscerated like the Rust Belt. And like this was actually something that Oren and I were talking about the event, and this kind of like relates to 2024. Like I get it, 2024, no one cares. I mean, like there's going to be some great content made from it, but like in the long stretch of things, probably won't matter. The last election we ever had was in 2020. The rest of these don't matter. At least in the grand procedural test of things. The question becomes like, and here's the hypothetical that he and I were talking about, and this is something that I think you might want to pose to like your DeSantis friends. Is this: Ron DeSantis wins the 2016 presidential election. He's got a mixed career, a mixed bag. He's generally oriented around like a smart foreign policy and trying to like cut taxes and reduce immigration. Doesn't get everything that he wants. And he has some mixed track record, some gaffes here and there, and he's beleaguered by scandal because he defeated Hillary Clinton in 2016. 2020 comes around. He responds to the COVID the same way that President Trump does, tries to follow the science, quote unquote, and obviously through procedural manipulation and through clearly illegal ways of modifying election law through the judicial fiat. The 2020 election is questionably contested, and the Supreme Court does not hear his appeal. The question becomes this: do the American people who voted for Ron DeSantis, do they go and storm the Bastille like they did on January 6th, 2021 for Donald Trump? Do you think they would, or do they not?
Oh, for Ron DeSantis?
Yeah.
Oh God, no.
Okay. That was the answer Oren and I came to.
No, he doesn't inspire that much level of emphatic greatness.
The people don't love him.
No, I feel bad for Ron because he actually is a good governor. I just think
I know, and he's going to, and he's like, I want him to be a good governor. I think that he's good, but unfortunately, as it is with a lot of good American politicians, and there are a few good politicians left in this country, at this moment, some disgusting, goblin lobbyist whispers in your ear, I can make you president of the United States.
Oh, yeah.
Then all of a sudden, like, nothing matters. And that idea of putting on the one true ring of power is what matters.
Exactly. No, you know why? I'll tell you why. And I think of this from an artist perspective, okay? And maybe me and Lauren can talk about this when my book comes out, because, like, I have this in the introduction chapter. It's called, it's like a variety chapter. It's called Art in the Age of Nothing and Nowhere, right? And of course, I had to get the title, like the chapter titled "Nowhere" from our favorite film "Nowhere" by Greg Araki. But anyways, I have this one.
Absolutely.
I have this one. No, but it's actually pertinent about like Gen Xers and millennials versus like the kitsch, like the regime of like globalist kitsch that Zoomers are living under. But anyways, this subchapter in it is about like two rival regimes of kitsch I have, and it's about like the first portion is critiquing like this like Jay Bowie article of like how Trump and like how he's like this regime of like small business people that are tyrants, blah blah blah. But I talk about like, because I wrote an essay about art in the Trump age in Ending Bigly, right? Published by Terrorist Press, edited by our good friend Bill Marchant, The Many Fates of Donald Trump. I'm the only like nonfiction essay in it, right?
There you go.
But then I expanded about like, okay, why is it that Trump created this moment, or rather he rode the waves of this certain moment? And I think it's because of the sort of like aesthetic signifiers and the aesthetic regime of Trump being like, as much as we know, like, okay, this is like Walter Benjamin fascism, blah, blah, blah. But the aestheticization of politics that Trump ushers in, the sort of emphatic praise for him, the fact that like we view, and this is a preview of my book, by the way, the fact that we view him as this kind of like falling upward unintentional savior figure, because Trump embodies something very deep on an aesthetic level that is in the heart of like what we know as Americana, right? Trump is this macho 80s vaporwave figure, but he's also this like hero of the working class.
And this is literally
Yeah.
why every liberal critique about
Yes.
evangelicals voting for him, they're like, well, you don't really care about his morals. I'm like, ideally, and I wrote this again in the Substack article, I said, ideally, if America were still a majority Christian country and actually adhered to any kind of like small o orthodoxy, yeah, you'd have a St. Ambrose of Milan moment where like Christian would be like, or a kind of Christianity where like Trump would be denied communion or whatever at a church. But like that, we don't live in that
under
country.
that.
We don't live in that country. We live in the post-Christianity of like the Enlightenment and of the French Revolution. Like that's where we're at.
Yeah.
And so like they're voting for him because he speaks to their interests, both on a racial, political, and economic business.
Yeah. So
Or, like-
my argument is that like with Trump, you don't get like the normal like conservative of like Norman Rockwell, because there's a chapter in the book that explicitly critiques Norman Rockwell as being like a proto-lib, right?
He is a lib. Like,
yeah.
His stuff is associated hand in hand with everything FDR ever said. Freedom from want, like eat shit.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like the whole the one painting during the Civil Rights Act, what was it called? The Burden That We Share, right?
Yeah.
Like Trump, he explicitly counters. This is why millennials voted for Trump, by the way. He explicitly counters like the kitsch of Norman Rockwell, American contartism, and he goes to this more like sonic meme culture, machismo 80s capitalist vaporwave synthwave version of that return to tradition Americana, that America can win. America can be a futurist nation. America can be like this glorious Golden Arches McDonald's, but like Roman column version of it, right? Like, and I use the example of this this digital artist that did this fake commercial in Japan for Trump, where it's like total like Trump vaporwave Japan. It's like, imagine if like an anime griper did a commercial for Donald Trump. I believe his name is Mike Diva. Look,
you had a bunch of those too, like the Hispanics for Trump ad for like, you know, votar por Trump or whatever. Like, I'm sorry, that goes unfathomably hard.
Yeah, goths for Trump.
Like it, you know, you had all these things. But like the official one, like it did a good job. Like it was a good campaign ad, way better than, you know, George W. Bush's like Cinco de Mayo section on his website, like in the 2000 election. Yes, I know the media has evolved since 2000, but like
so
the tone has shifted.
100%.
Which also is a reflection of how bad like the immigration system has gotten. Again, you know, get on the when ICE agents show up at your door, you know, you open the door, you get on the floor, everybody walk the dinosaur, but seriously, you have to go back. That's just the problem where we're at right now.
Yeah.
No, but like, he spoke to those things. I wholeheartedly agree with you.
But then he also, to wrap up this point, to answer your question, Prude, that you and Oren were talking about, and that maybe Oren can do a stream with me on this. To wrap it up, like, but Trump also appealed to those like chud, like boomer MAGA Americans, because he was like there with a baseball hat, the Make America Great Again hat, and he was there with Michael Savage, and like he spoke to them as well. He also spoke to like the high end like theory cells within Frog Twitter as like this American greatness, like macho 80s vaporwave aesthetic thing. So Trump's aesthetic creation, not his policies, because we know that there was a number of reasons why Trump failed in a lot of ways. But in terms of his image, this is why Trump has created like a cult of personality that the shit libs like endlessly pour over, that he's like this postmodern political cult leader. And we say, you know, Giga Chad, yes, he is a postmodern political cult leader.
Yeah.
The reason...
Wholeheartedly agree.
Exactly. That he's a post-truth, postmodern political cult leader. Because of the aesthetic marriage of all of these different strands in Americana that negates the stuffy, crusty, libtarded boomer Norman Rockwell vision. But also, when it comes to Ron DeSantis, to answer your question, you and Oren's question, he can never inspire this greatness, because at the end of the day, Ron is just like a little bit more of an insightful bureaucrat. Like that whole Twitter speech destroyed him, because Trump would have been there and he would have talked with his like, what did Second City, what did the bureaucrats say? Second City bureaucrat when it was like some guy that talked about like Trump is a white supremacist, blah blah blah. He's like, he's literally a New York, like, or he said like Trump is a Southern white racist. This like academic.
He's a New York like old money.
He's a New York old money guy that has
had
the
his
cadence.
kids marry into Jewish families. Like,
No, but
he's not like some Southern racist.
No, but then Second City Bureaucrats said that Trump has the cadence and the speech patterns of a rich old New York Jewish woman.
Yeah, not surprised.
Yeah,
I mean, even the Economist in the Economist magazine, they were like making fun of him in the 2016 election. They're like, Trump speaks to his audience at a 4th grade reading level, and I'm just like, well, one, the lowest common denominator tells me that like you got ears on most people and your message is succinct enough to understand. Like, this is just how democracy works.
Yeah.
Thank you for pointing out that democracy promotes like people talking stupid in order to get votes. Like,
yeah,
I appreciate that.
But Peggy, like, I'm sorry that Trump talks like a more like down to earth, low IQ version of like Peggy Guggenheim, like a rich old Jewish woman in New York.
Like Peggy Guggenheim, but talking to like rednecks. Like, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And here's the fun part: Trump was the most centrist president of your lifetimes.
Yeah, there you go. Like,
outside of Bill Clinton, Trump was the most progressive, like centrist candidate of your lifetime.
Yeah,
we will never get another centrist.
But he did get rid of Roe versus Wade.
He did get rid of Roe versus Wade. So I mean, that's a plus.
Can you imagine Trump being like Peggy Guggenheim, like, well, you know, I think Norman Rockwell. Sorry. I think Jackson Pollock is, you know, Blue Pools was really great. I really loved it. This is the best. But I really like the Deep though. The Deep is better. Blue Pools, even though Blue Pools is best, I really like Lavender Mist, but I think the Deep is better. I think it speaks to me. America's got the greatest art in the world. So Trump, what do you think of Lavender? Well, I think Lavender Mist was great. It was great, but Blue Pools is better. Blue Pools is better. I think it's the best in the world. Like, can you imagine, like,
honest to God, I'd like to think that that's how he did talk if he was ever invited to those like art galleries.
Oh yeah, back in the 50s in the Guggenheim Gallery. Oh yeah, that's how Trump would talk. Like, I kind of like I kind of like Rothko, but I think Blue Pools is the greatest. I think it's the best. We have the best art world.
I'll take that. I would take that, America.
Yeah.
Over the concept of a Supreme Court justice writing the words lived experience in her dissent.
Oh God, lived experience. Oh my God.
And apparently Joe Biden walked off set during a live interview.
Yeah.
Delightful.
About this court ruling?
No. Like, literally, this is what Greg Kelly was sharing. He just walks off a set during a live interview with MSNBC. Whoo!
What?
Yeah.
They didn't tell him to like stay there?
They didn't give him his drugs.
That's incredible.
Oh, it's just old Uncle Joe.
No, because the thing is, though, there has been cases where presidents in America, even like going like way back in the day, have like walked out of interviews, but like they usually do it because of like, you know, an impassioned protest against like, as much as I hate on him because he really destroyed like a lot of modern Canada, Pierre Trudeau, he was the master of like walking away from interviews, like just stunning people. Like when the whole like FLQ thing where he said like where that guy from the CBC is like, so what can you, he's like, can you really do this? Like put in the War Measures Act? He goes, just watch me. And he just walks off, right? Like that's different. Like that's coming from someone with like intelligence, right? Someone who, has his marbles together. And like, okay, near the end of his life, Pierre Trudeau was kind of losing it, right? Because, he was old.
Yeah.
But like, I can't remember past the age of like 70 something that they gave an interview to Pierre Trudeau. But like with Joe Biden walking out of an interview out of like pure senility, like you can hear the caretakers in the background, like an empty bliss beyond. One of the greatest. He nuked his podcast, unfortunately. But do you know DE on Twitter? DE.
No, I don't.
Like he had like the avatar of David Foster Wallace for a while. DE had one of the best podcasts ever, where it was like a combination of like ambient noise and music and his musings that were like half ironic. It was like one of the best podcasts. And he had like this one episode. It was called An Empty Bliss Beyond Joe Biden.
We may have to find a way to
to bring it back.
To
Yeah,
bring that back.
yeah, it was great.
Just a
He
burning Biden.
just a burning Biden, exactly.
Everywhere
Yeah.
at the end of Joe. Now
Everywhere at
hold
the
on,
end of Joe.
we're gonna find a good one. Everywhere
Yeah.
at the end of Time Tracks.
Everywhere at the end of Jover.
Let's see here. My heart will stop in Joe.
Oh no.
We don't have many days, Biden. Late afternoon, Biden. All that follows is Joe.
All that follows is Joe. I love that one.
Sublime beyond Biden.
Sublime.
Bewildered in each other's Joe. Long-term dusk Biden. You know, like drifting time misplaced.
Yeah.
Some of these are good. All that follows is Joe. I think might just be the one that we stick with. I don't know.
Oh, we gotta have an episode about that.
Misplaced in Biden. You know, we should. But no, I'm not listening to all 6.5 hours of this again. I'm not. I don't have the emotional capital right now to do that. Biden a decade ago had a hell of a better speeches. Yeah, I know. It's true.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, 100%.
He had a brain a decade ago.
Yeah. But you know, those speeches, he kind of was like a whiny libtard. Like, I mean,
duh.
I'm saying libtard, but like, do you remember the South Africa speech? He had like this fiend indignation. Like, it was cringe. It was cringe. But no, Joe, like it's funny though, because he did have that speech that was like pretty like shocking against gay marriage on I believe it was Meet the Depressed.
Yeah.
That's what Michael Savage calls it, Meet the Depressed. But like, no, he had that speech about he's like, never, no way, no how. I could probably do a pretty good young Joe Biden if I had the right cadence.
Yeah,
but,
start talking about racial, you know.
Yeah.
Joe Biden, what's a sleazeball from the stop? Absolutely, Brian Neil Danielson. I mean, he literally just was a lovely plagiarist, a man, a philanderer, a crappy and scrappy striver. Doesn't belong there. He doesn't belong there.
Yeah. I didn't watch Forbidden Door yet because I'm not paying, because I already pay for New Japan. I can't believe I have to like seed like Forbidden Door because of Tony Khan. But I forget who won. Was it Okada or Bryan Danielson? I forget. I think Okada won because they got to protect Okada. So I don't know. Anyways, yeah, it's just like Joe Biden. But in terms of Ron DeSantis, like the original point, like Ron DeSantis, I don't think can really inspire that meme magic because Trump came about at a different crisis point in the American right wing in terms of after the Obama years. But the fact that he was a showman, he was very integral to like a certain brand of Americana that was very much like America's inspirational, America's a trailblazer. Like Ron DeSantis cannot replicate that mimetic potential that Trump had. That moment, and as much as I respect people like David Reboy and other people, I can't, like, if anything, Ron DeSantis becoming the nominee would be a return to like the quote unquote normalcy of the Obama age, of like people like the Bush family getting.
He's literally this year's Mitt Romney candidate.
Yeah, or Jeb Bush.
Like we're gonna focus on policy, which I mean I get it, right? Like you need that shit. Ironically, this is what makes Vivek the most interesting candidate, right? For me at least, because I'm like, oh, he's nothing but a walking, talking policy dump, and he talks to the worst people on God's green earth, like Richard Hanania. Oh. Like that's why I pay attention to what he has to say. Like these are good ideas. It's a shame that like they'll never be enacted. And that's
the packaging is terrible.
It's just a drug for me. It's like a good pack of American spirits. I know these are bad for me, but I'm still going to smoke them. You know, like.
They're slightly less bad for you.
You're never going to be a president, but I'm going to listen to these takes because these aren't half bad. I mean, he's H1B mold bug, and that's okay.
When I smoke, I only smoke American spirits.
Amen, brother. Amen.
Oh, Okada tapped out to the LaBelle lock. Oh no! Oh, they're really gonna bury Okada for this year's G1. They want to pick someone else. I think it's gonna be Naito's year in the G1 climax.
I think New Gloff is right because like. Name a more hated person in American politics than Hillary Clinton.
Oh God,
you can't.
You can't. No, who could you think?
No. No.
I mostly use gum and lozenges. I don't really like. I only smoke like maybe a few cigarettes a week. So hopefully, I'm not like my old man's a 2-pack a day guy. So
Yeah.
no, but in terms of the most hated politician in America,
Like, you can't get past Hillary
no,
Clinton. Like, the right will never be more unified on that single factor that, like, whatever we do, Hillary Clinton cannot be president of the United States.
yeah, even
Like,
women didn't like her.
yeah. Like, it really does go down to that. Like, this is going to be just until you find a candidate on the left that's more hated, you won't
Yeah.
you will not get that kind of unification. Because until then, we're like, whatever you think of the DeSantis shill known as Pedro Gonzalez,
Oh, that's a good transition.
and this will be the last thing we talk about because Jesus H, we're nearly 3
Oh, we
hours.
didn't talk about the trailer park person.
I mean, I would just say that it launched 1,000 tweets.
The face that launched 1,000.
The tweet that launched 1,000 quotes and stuff like that. I mean, the only thing I really had to say was like, no one wants to be the white trash, but at the same time, like, name another ethnic group that is nominally on your side that has been affected by immigration, globalization, deindustrialization, opioid abuse, things like that.
Yeah.
That is true. That's very true.
That's true. Yeah.
He avoided social degeneracy like the plague. That's very true.
Romney like tweeting Black Lives Matter to get at Trump. That was like, that shows it right there.
Can we just go back to senators caning each other? Like, I don't. I'm tired. I'm tired of the Pierre Delectos and the AOC alts. I want you to start beating each other up again.
Yeah. That'd be crazy.
Just do it. I want to see Dianne Feinstein like rush at Senator Lee or something like that. It's just that's what needs to.
I want to ask you this, Prude.
Yeah.
Like, I want to ask you this because like, there's quite a lot of them in Texas as well. But like, in terms of like the American political machine that is the Mormons, what does like? Do you think it's unfair or fair to conclude that by Mitt Romney libbing out, that maybe the Mormons wouldn't be like a potential conservative reactionary bulwark in America? Or do you think that maybe Romney is so integral to the business, like the sort of incestuous relationship between the business and the Washington machine in America, that you really can't like say that he's a representative of that Mormon bloc?
I don't think he's like the world's best representative of it, but he's a facet of it. This might be a question for Bennett more than me, because Bennett is a Mormon and I am not, and I take a very my general disposition is to not trust them, but that's my gut instinct. But again, there are some great Mormons out there like Bennett, and I have nothing bad to say about Bennett. But as a faction, I'm not of the LDS Church, and I know that quite a few of them do tend to be happy recruits. People that don't drink or smoke and learn other languages because their missionary work finds them in the FBI and things like that. So I don't know, like sometimes good regime stuff, good politicians, but like the domestic politics inside of Florida or Utah are kind of wonky. Their governor's kind of a shit lib, so we'll see. Like,
that's what I mean, because
this would be a question though for Bennett more than me. I can't give you an answer.
Well, I'll have him on one day in Content Minded to talk, because the thing is, like, the Mormons have like a very integral role to like a lot of apparatuses of the American government and the American political machine and the Republican Party. So there's sort of like a wild card in terms of how their political allegiances are going to manifest when things like get really bad for, in America in terms of like Republican, conservative politics, but also like, because they bear the brunt of a lot of issues when it comes to the racial politics of America in their situatedness next to the Mexican border. So yeah, I mean, the Mormons, a lot of them are glowies. A lot of them are kind of like Evan McMullen type of.
Oh yeah, I know, right? Like instead of like your based like Joseph Smith and John Moses Browning creating arms to have their Utah Deseret ethno-state, you get Evan McMullen and Mitt Romney.
Yeah. So I wonder, like, if in the Mormon community, like, I would love to ask Bennett or other Mormons that we know, like Jesse Lee Lucas, like, I wonder if like that issue, how it's treated when it comes to ideology within the LDS Church and within their ties to various like Republican Party apparatus, but also the American security state. I mean, we can't underestimate how many of them are integral to like high echelon positions in the FBI and the CIA, and not to do like the whole parapolitics thing, but there's a lot of like very strange connections there. Yeah. Very fast. I like a lot of Mormons. I'm just saying, like, yeah.
But, to the super chats.
To the super chats, but also, you know, it's Mike Oxlong. LSD to CIA tells you. Well, you know what's funny? I actually went to university with a Mormon chick, who then became a pretty stalwart lesbian, but she was like a tomboy, and
I can answer this question, Polish ambassador.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you usually know the names / have opinions on the 50+ governors of all of those states? No, there's like maybe 25 that you can really pay attention to.
Yeah.
At any, like, I can name at least, you can name maybe 10 or so, like Newsom, you know, Abbott, DeSantis, the
Grassley.
governor. No, Grassley's a senator, but like
senator, yeah.
The case is whoops, wrong thing. I did. Oh yeah, they did do that in the 60s. Why is the general geography lacking in America? Brain space used for state heads. Geography is also not taught in America with respect to the fact that our country is the size of like the entire like continent of Europe.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one thing to consider, right, in terms of land mass. Gavin Newsom is the governor of California, internet friend. But I mean, like, we just don't focus on it. Like, that's why I love that favorite quote from Mark Twain, like, God invented war so Americans could learn geography. It's not focused on, because, again, I would really recommend people listen to that Jonathan Bowden speech about, like, I think it's the speech about H.P. Lovecraft, and you can find it up on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
Where he talks about, you know, a guy comes back from Europe on a trip, and he lands in Oklahoma, and his friend says, "Isn't it great to be back in the world? The world is here in the United States. It's not anywhere else."
Yeah.
You know, it's the privilege of being a hegemonic power. I don't have to care or know the geography of other places. It's the continental 48, Alaska, and a few others. You know, Gretchen Whitmer, the governor of Michigan, Glenn Youngkin, the governor of Virginia,
Glenn Blumpkins,
I know, right? Like Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Nikki Haley, like well, Nikki Haley's not governor anymore, but like J.B. Pritzker, governor of Illinois, you know, like, and Pritzker's like a whole other issue, because then you get into the whole like transition to drug stuff, but yeah, like, it's just not, geography's not taught, and you focus inwardly, and that is the pleasure and privilege of a shitty education system and being in the heart of a global hegemon. That is literally why when my essay collection and short story collection comes out, it is literally called Discourse from the Imperial Heartland.
Okay, I'm looking at pictures of, I'm looking at body shots of Gretchen Whitmer.
What is wrong with you?
And fellas?
No.
She's got an evil face, though. Her face
is,
oh my God.
I'm sorry, ontologically evil.
She is ontologically evil. Like, no, but you look into her eyes, and it's like every stereotype that, you know what's ironic is, like, it's every stereotype that libs have of like post-WASP, like American upper middle class housewives, of like the evil scowling face. Like, that's her. Like, it's funny. Like, it's, oh, Gretchen Whitmer. What a, like, she's evil, man. What she's doing there.
Absolutely evil.
Yeah.
But we will get to the supers, because I'm going to be out.
Oh, we didn't talk about Pedro Gonzalez.
The only thing I really have to say is that like, the right is not unified, because there's no singular hatred candidate like what's the word I'm looking for? Like Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
These camps are hyper-partisan and backstab each other all the time. This is a tale as old as time with American party politics. I just find it funny that a man who has survived accusations of being an anti-Semite by both Charles Murray and Barry Weiss survives this, but, you know, gets in trouble by right-wingers or conservative ink pundits.
Yeah.
So Matthew Boyle from Breitbart.com, you are an insult to Andrew Breitbart's legacy, and I sincerely wish that you would just announce yourself as a shit lib. But I get it.
Yeah.
You're for Trump, and you work close with Steve Bannon, and this is how the game's going to be played, and it's really sad.
Yeah.
Zhang Wei, seek help. Seek help. Oh my gosh.
Well, she does have thunder thighs, but that's besides the point.
Golly.
She's evil.
So, off to the races.
Yes.
We'll start from the top here. Actually, we'll start with the entropy ones because I can't put those up here. So the first one's from Mike of Pole for $20 US.
Nice.
Says, good seeing you at the event, sir. But when is Geo going to write a chapter on neo-nuclear kitsch as the right-wing aesthetic that will save the West?
He
Great
tweeted this
stream as always, gents.
because I was defending that pregnant woman in the photo shoot in the nuclear plant.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, my argument was that like it was in the Daily Mail, right? And people were like, "Oh no, the kid's gonna be deformed." But like, if they're okay, if she's
is this where you were talking about like there's more radiation exposure in like an unfinished basement?
Yeah, unironically, like because the shielding in above ground nuclear waste dumps in above ground nuclear waste containers is like way to the nth degree that if she was in any danger of getting an higher than ambient radiation signature, they wouldn't have let her like put her baby bump next to the tank. Obviously, like people are being stupid. People are just like looking at this as like, oh, women stupid. But like, no, she's like, first of all, like, the fact that they're willing to promote like an educated young mother is like, that's, I find it wholesome. I mean, I am a critic of certain elements of nuclear power. I'm not like totally 100% sold on it, but like, I think that people are just acting stupid for the meme. We need more promote like, beautiful looking young smart mothers.
Look,
I think
Tina Kotek is literally like your lesbian librarian of Oregon. Like, why are you surprised? But anyways, yes, Mike of Pole, thank you very much. It was a pleasure to meet you at the event. You had given a good talk. I think Gio would love it. Just because it's a mix of like my influences are Deleuze and Guattari and Cody Wilson. So very interesting character. You should probably chat with them.
Is Tina like an actual lesbian or?
I'm pretty sure.
Or is she like a Lindsey Graham like in the closet?
Here we can just Google this real quick. Is the first open? Yeah, she's.
Oh, lesbian. There you go.
Open lesbian.
She's got the young Martin Sheen face lesbian.
She sure does.
Look, see, only Cyber Ninja Zero remembers that. Geo before GF, nuclear power is demonic. Well,
that is true. I remember that.
That's true, yeah.
But anyways,
destroyed me on that point when I remember.
you deserved it. Winston Fujimori for $10 US says, Gio mentioned the Ghost of True Capitalist Radio. He still streams, he's on YouTube at Ghost Politics. I think we were talking about this. He streams most weekday afternoons starting around somewhere between 1 to 4 p.m. I'm a mod for his chat. He also does the Ghost Show once or twice a month on Vaughn Live, which is a variety show. Cool.
Yeah, but he doesn't take those because he kept getting banned. That's why he doesn't take those like Radio Graffiti calls and like super chats anymore, because people will like send him the most ridiculous stuff. But like the problem with Ghost is that, I hate to say it, but the magic is gone in terms of like when he was on Blog Talk Radio, when it was like an actual like internet radio show. I feel like I don't know, is Ghost, the problem with Ghost, and I mean this with love, he finally got what he wanted. And people don't like it, which is to be a political analysis show instead of this like weird freak call-in troll show. He got what he wanted and people don't like that. So that's unfortunate. Yeah. But I still love Ghost. I still love and appreciate Ghost though. So there you go.
The next one is also from Winston Fujimori. As respects to like the Sildings Matrix servers, buddy, I would just simply say I can get you one, and I can DM you on Discord for it. So yeah, I can get a. This is Sildings uses Matrix in order to have a little more security with respects to like organizing basket weaving and things like that. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I can get you an invite. We'll take care of that on Discord, buddy. But thank you for the support. I always appreciate it. Nice. Sam153 for $10 US says, tears for fears and feed for Sneed. Glad to hear that Sildings was a success. Cheers. Nice. Yes, I think it was a rousing success. And it was a very good time. So yes, I'll talk more about that on Sunday afternoon when I get back from church. Micah Pohl for $10 US says, are we allowed to call her Mrs. Geo a la Mrs. Radlib? Only when they get married.
Yeah.
And then Winston Fujimori says, again, I'm in Ghost Politics' inner circle. I don't see Geo being in there. If he wants to re-invite me, He can DM me. Yeah. Or DM him on Twitter at Weeb Extremist. Ghost is now on Matrix/Element. Well, there you go.
Oh, there you go. Because like I'm still in the original Discord, if I recall. Like if I was like one of the first batch of people to buy a membership, and like you can see my name on the website there, my Twitter @ So there you go. Ghost keeps simping for Pippa Pipkin. Oh my god.
Oh Lord. Well, now we're on to the non-entropy ones, so
There we go.
we can get to this to the YouTube ones with the starred ones. Some money for starting the stream early. We started a little later from our usual time, but earlier than what we were originally going to do. Also, Scott Greer is right about Con Air. I actually do not know Scott Greer's take on the movie Con Air, so I can't do it. I like Scott Greer, the podcaster, more than I like Scott Greer, the Twitter account.
What did he say about Con Air?
I don't know. I'd have to look that up.
Mm.
Internet friend for $5 Canadian says, congratulations on 1 year.
Oh yeah, it's a year anniversary.
Yes, the Digital Archipelago went live on June 30th, 2022. And I guess it's been a year. It's been a year. What a crazy time.
Crazy.
1 year, 48 episodes, and a guest appearance on Conscious Caracol show. So you got almost a full 52 weeks of a year's worth of content on here. We will soon reach that year. Soon. But yeah, what a thank God you left BTR.
I know, I can't believe. Like, listen, I'm not gonna lie, it still kind of chaps my ass because I wish I did. Out of the 10 to 12,000 subs that I helped build, I mean, it's still kind of great, but like, I get to do what I want, and it's been great with Prude, and I can't ask for anything more. And I'm glad that I'm with a co-host that actually respects me. So there you go.
Well, thank you.
Look at this comfy lad. Geo Seldom was an inside job to create a true cell to fake cell pipeline. Well, we'll see.
We'll see. That. We'll see.
Look at God's Dominatrix, you bastard. I don't pay attention to Geo anymore. God's Dominatrix is one of the first A-logs from the BTR days. So.
A discussion with James at Hermitics might be interesting.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think when James comes out with a new book, I'll definitely have him on, because I remember like way back when I first started Content Minded, he said he would be down to come on. So maybe like if I reread the Land book or something like that. I feel bad because my book writing has eaten up all my time, so I have less time devoted to actually like researching different people. And like someone like Meta Nomad James, I would have to I'd have to like really research. Like I'd have to read his book again, and we'll see what happens. So
if you want to watch modern Rock'em Sock'em, I watch Modern Day Debate. Yeah, I mean, if I still want my internet e-blood sports stuff there, I'd go there.
He had Ben Avery on recently. I watched a bit of that one. But it's like
I do watch it when Yarvin comes on. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
But on to the next one. Jay Ford for $5. There's too much content, too much posturing, too much stuff being said, too much noise to get a signal, and to the typical pundits only add to the noise. Well, that's why you're here.
Yeah.
That's why you're here.
No, but he's right though.
Oh, he's totally right. There's a lot of noise, and it kind of feels like the scene is dead in some respects. But that's a very cyclical thing to say, because like the scene is dead, new posters come on, new theories and ideas get explored.
Like what ZHP said,
yeah, it's a cycle. So it'll be back pretty soon. Jay Ford asks again for $5. Yeah, but what would e-girls add? Chaos. The answer is chaos. That is chaos.
Now that I've achieved a degree of female attention.
It's over.
It's over. The e-girl, sort of like the Archon gaze of the e-girl that they implant images in your perception. It doesn't faze me anymore. So there you go.
Moose for $4.99. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, God's imagery. I stopped paying attention because I have lecturing actual work. How dare you? How dare you not meet Max? No, I'm not. I don't want to call you out, God's imagery. Yeah, I didn't notice you, and so I assumed like, you have prior engagements. So, yeah.
I'll let you deal with your own A-logs then. Moose for $4.99 asked, "How were the overnight accommodations? I believe they were included. They were great." As was the meal and the open bar, according to those who drank. It was nice buying drinks for Turnip. Felt like the cooler older brother.
Turnip drinks?
Well, he's underage, so I mean, like, he's under
Oh
21, I should say. He's 19. He's not. So yeah, I was
boy,
playing the cooler older brother buying him booze
that's
because I
legal in
can't drink.
Canadian.
It's illegal here in the United States, but like no one
Yeah.
fucking stopped me. J4 $5 US. Love the autism diagnostic question. That was wholesome. We have the best autists, and they're always so raw and real. I think
When
at the event, someone I think asked the question about like an autism diagnosis, and it
oh,
just
everyone raised their hand who is autistic. Someone did that?
it was done humorously.
Oh man.
Yeah. Lieutenant
How
Floor
many
for
hands
10,
went up?
more than there should have been.
Oh.
Lieutenant Floor for $10 US says the last conversation I had with Prude of him is him kindly asking me not to unleash man-made horrors beyond our comprehensions. I'm still not sure which horrors he means. It means that patriots need to arrest you, and that Real Raw News needs to inform me of your pending execution.
that was the I was laughing my ass off when I saw that. When Patrick Casey responded to that Stephen Miller guy.
Stephen L. Miller, not the based Miller.
Not the base Miller, yeah. That he's like, you know, when Trump gets reelected, I look forward to reading your obituary in Real Raw News. I'm like, oh, that's like so
It's
I
so
remember,
good.
I remember, oh, so good. And he posted like the Real Raw News Giga Chad. The best obituary I read was when they carted away Alec Baldwin after he redacted that
the actress
the studio,
or whatever.
Yeah.
The movie's still coming out. That's what kills me.
Oh God. When they're like
maybe we'll review it. Who knows?
Yeah, we should do that. Like where he's like the CIA dragged him away. Q Patriots dragged him away, and his last words were, "You'll never get me alive, bastard." It's like that's real like Hollywood. Oh, I love Real Raw News, man.
So it's such wag the dog shit. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
But also whatever, you should save your money, Lieutenant Pilar, and buy a suit the next time that you show up at one of these events.
You have to wear a suit?
Well, the dress attire is formal, yes.
Oh,
and
man,
him
then
showing up looking like a Tom Green slub did not help. Comfy Lad for $4.99 says, it's funny. My friend from Ireland has always said that Ireland is like 2 or 3 years behind the UK and stuff. Now it might just be even or ahead.
That's
it's
ahead.
definitely ahead.
Yeah.
Reactionary DM for $20 US. Well, thank you, sir. Please pray for me. It seems like God is calling me to a similar path to turnip seeds in my denomination, the CMA. 3 weeks ago, they voted for female ordination with clearly manipulated procedure. Tactical advice is much appreciated. The same thing that we saw with the Southern Baptist Convention. I would speak to John Harris from Conversations That Matter, and I would talk to similarly like-minded conservatives within your own denomination to protest this and to see what you can do, and to be mindfully aware of the fact that if you're going to speak out against this, which you should, and to uphold the fact that no, the church does not allow female ordination into any.
There will be consequences for you.
There will be consequences. They will come after you. I would highly recommend that you get a hold of Ryan Turnipseed to talk about this issue, as well as other people who are within your respective church to go about it, because these things do matter. Your orthodoxy matters within your own church, and that you should have maintained that.
Yeah.
Be prepared for when they come after you, but you are doing nothing wrong by speaking out against something that is clearly in violation of what the church asks for.
What's CMA?
That's a good question.
It's like some Protestant.
Oh, I know. I'm looking it up.
Yeah.
Christian and Missionary Alliance. I'm assuming, unless it's something else.
That's like Baptist, or
that's an evangelical denomination.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, Missionary Alliance. There you go. Yeah. Well, I'm not a Protestant evangelical, but I have respect for those people, and I think that you should do whatever you can. But like I said, face the consequences, and we do pray for you. And actually, because it's $20, I forgot to do the. I'll do it for you, my friend.
Do the voice.
$20. So thank you, Reactionary DM. Hopefully, Godspeed, because I don't want to demoralize you, but it's
an uphill fight.
It's an uphill fight, but I was just gonna say that what happened to Ryan Turnipseed, our good friend, is absolutely insane. It's insane on a level that I couldn't even believe. And I don't know where it's heading, Ryan's war with his church, but
they don't know yet. He doesn't know yet. I spoke to him about it this weekend. He says, we'll see.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, though, the one thing that, the very, I would say evil presence within Ryan's church that's trying to derail him, they're being put on blast, and Ryan has absolutely humiliated these these malevolent elements, and that's all we can hope for in the end. And they're being forced to take a huge L just by one turnip frog's action. Change can come about. So that's a white pill, if anything.
Absolutely.
Even though it's happening to Turnip Seed personally, I think it's just a tragedy in my opinion. I think it makes my blood boil, honestly. And I'm not even like a Lutheran or anything. I'm just like, even as a Catholic, I mean, like, look at the stuff happening in my church. I mean, it's so beyond monumentally evil that well, I don't know, I'm thinking of having Popehead on Content Minded, so
yeah, you should.
But then there's certain stuff like I know that I'm gonna have to censor for YouTube, so we'll see what happens.
Well,
but that's the way it goes. But yeah, Popehead's a great guy. Popehead knows a lot about the occult, and but yeah, like I said, what's happening to Ryan is just not utter travesty, and hopefully there will be Godspeed. There will be resolution for you as well, Reactionary DM. So, yeah.
Son of Haster for $5 says, "Pleasure to meet you this weekend, Prude. Gio, hope to see you next time. God bless."
Oh yeah, hopefully it'll be.
It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure to meet you. I'm hopefully you did not have as many flight problems getting there as you did going home. Because yeah, he was like late by a whole like 12 hours. Like he missed a whole like all of Friday and like half of Saturday. Man. So, Seasider just says $10. Just gives us $10. Well, thank you, good sir.
$10.
Always appreciated.
Thank you.
New Glow for $5 says, "What's your guys' thoughts on Lash anyway / Culture of Narcissism?"
I really like Lash. I like Culture of Narcissism.
Yeah, good. There are good takeaways that I think still very much have aged incredibly well. And it's probably worth doing an episode on that stuff.
Oh yeah,
we should.
Well, I mentioned Lash in my book even. When it's based off of this essay that our good friend Apex wrote about the therapeutic managerial state and about how that relates to the whole like humans of flat design thing. So yeah, that's and I recently got I also will have Eli Schiff on the show on Content because I recently got back a hold of him. He's been busy lately, so I've been in secret communiques with Eli Schiff, and maybe he could write me a review of my book. So we'll see what happens. So yeah,
interesting.
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't even want to read this. Now this is the Howling Mutant tweet.
This is a Howling Mutant tweet right here.
"I am surrounded by ambulatory Terry Shivers and sexual miscreants. Neighbor is a Freemason. Boating license applications denied. No sex in 3 months since my GHB dealer skipped town. Yet I walk on."
Whoa!
Are you happy? Like, what a weird thing. I appreciate the money, but jeez Louise.
That's Bukowskian right there. I'm kind of worried about the last part where you said the only way you can have sex is with GHB, which is I don't want to like spell it out for YouTube, the implications of that, but that was amazing, sir.
Unless that's for incredible. Unless you need to take it yourself to go for it, but
Yeah, but that's we'll leave it to mystery, like all poetry. We'll leave it to mystery.
We did the Brent Taylor one, but you can always.
What did he say? Gio ask?
Yeah, ask your Irish GF about whether or not to eat potato or let it ferment to drink later.
Oh, she's definitely like the eat potato one. But
there you go.
Yeah.
Mike, Mr. Michael Oxlong says, "Thank you for helping me to engage in reverse wage theft for my heckin' wholesome family-based business. Really great for my productivity."
Oh God, reverse wage theft. What's he referring to here?
I'm not too sure. I hope that he can give me some context for when this super chat was sent.
Oh my God.
But yeah, engage in family business. That way, when wage theft reversal, I have no idea. Mike, offer some context in the chat.
Oh my God.
That's what matters. Oh, she eats the potato. Well, it's better than her being a potato.
Yeah. Or being a drunk. I mean, I think that's what the other letting it ferment was implying. So
reverse wage theft just means I'm chatting instead of working. Got it. Well, that's why we're here. We're here to entertain you while you're waging away. Comfy Lad for $1.99 says, "Are we ontologically chud?"
Oh yeah.
Sure. Better than ontologically evil.
100%.
And then Michael Oxlong for $4.99 US says GeoFake sells the biggest psyop since January 6th. Patriots are control of that. You know what? We love our friends, don't we, boys?
Oh, you guys better behave. She's gonna be listening to this, so it's like.
Oh, I don't think I would ever No,
I told her not to watch my content anymore, but then she can't help herself. So.
Well, it was like when I met Jay Burden at the event. He's just like, my roommate and my wife watch you guys, and I was like, your wife watches this, yeah? And she's like, you've heard? He's like, they talk about you too, and I was like, good to know. She's like, he's like, I make my own show. I don't have time to listen to people, but it's I was like, it's very interesting that Mrs. J. Burden. So Mrs. Burden, hello, you got your own shout out. Congratulations. Mazel tov to you both. God grant you many years in your marriage. May you be fruitful.
Oh yeah.
So there you go. There's your little shout out when you listen to this episode on the pod.
Well, it's kind of, with me, it's kind of unavoidable because
my
I
wife
shouldn't tell this story in public, but
remember, she's in the basement.
She's in the basement. My life loves you. She's in the basement.
The next time I have a GF, I will say I don't exist online. Yeah, I should do that.
Yeah. That's how we met, because she followed me for like a long time online.
I wish the Buc-ee's gas station employee was there. He was not.
Oh man.
Oh, I've already told this story, but like, that's the only time I've ever been publicly recognized as the Prudentialist outside of the U.S. events.
In a Buc-ee's?
Yeah, he was the guy chopping up brisket. He's got the large foam hat on and his little apron. He's like, I know you. And I was very creepy for some guy who's working at Buc-ee's to say that to me, because I'm just picking up a sandwich. And I was like, I really don't think you do. And he's like, you're the frog. And I was like, fuck, I gotta go.
Man.
Yeah. Follow to stock. That's a good question, Gio.
A little bit of both.
A little bit of both. We'll call
bit of both.
We'll call A. We'll call B.
She used to send me these like really long Telegram posts that I would reply to. That's how it happened. But no, they have brisket at Buc-ee's.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
It's like a giant, like on one section of the store, it's like live, laugh, love shit.
Yeah.
And then place to get like sandwiches, kolaches, brisket, sandwiches, and stuff like that. Then all your other stuff like coffee, candy, some novelty bits and baubles and things like that. And it's got the cleanest bathrooms ever. It's like the last implicit stand of white identity since for Pride Month, they did the stupid rainbow colored rocking chairs for Cracker Barrel. I'm really disappointed by that.
Oh man, Cracker Barrel has fallen.
Cracker Barrel has fallen. The one episode of Murdoch that hasn't aged well.
Oh god.
And it has an entire section of beef jerky.
Nice. Buc-ee's just seems like the American chud store. Like it
is. It's
got like that trucker vibe to it, right?
But that's the thing. No truckers allowed. It's literally for families. Like when you drive by a Buc-ee's, there are signs that say like no semi trucks.
Oh wow, crazy.
So yeah, it's for the people. It's for the chuds.
Nice. Look at the Gio's main takeaway from Buc-ee's stories that they have brisket.
I know, not that I was like recognized in public, but
yeah, but they have brisket. Use a brisket cutter.
It's deterritorialized chudum.
I'm afraid of when I get recognized in public if that happens. Like I'd be like, oh god, no. Like it's no lot lizards.
No lot lizards. So true.
Oh, it's brutal.
It's so true. Yeah, Texas is like really like it's the Texas Trinity at this point is just basically like Buc-ee's, HEB, and Whataburger.
Yeah, what I heard Whataburger.
Yeah, I know. There's too much Yellowstone merch, and I find that very annoying. But I don't want to disrupt the white high trust nature of Buc-ee's by like breaking out and throwing it outside the store. Then I get arrested.
They have like who's wearing Beth merch? Is it like huntress women that like go hunting with their dads?
It's like Gen X white women.
Oh my god! So it's like military. It's like military wife pog metal. Like they listen to the same face facts would freak out of recognizing while implying I'm actually forced to go out in public because of my GF.
So there's a gentleman by the name of Mr. Polemical on Twitter. I'm sure he had a different handle, but Andre from the Repeal the 20th Century, because he goes to my church, he was telling me about Mr. Polemical's reaction to me, because like people will say like World War I officer that would shoot you dead for retreating at the Battle of Somme, and he's just like and then he says prudent, and he's saying, I'll read it verbatim, or I'll try to if I can pull it up, but he was basically like, Prude looks like a Brezhnev era Soviet commissar that's actually selling shit to the West in order to enrich himself, who would probably vote for Vladimir Putin in the 2000 election after the Soviet Union fell, and is now pro Putin despite giving his shit over to the West.
Yeah,
he
takes
just
the deal.
I was like, damn, that is the most oddly specific description I have ever heard for myself.
Yeah.
And I was kind of impressed. And so I DM'd him saying, I liked your description. And I just found out he's on a 7-day ban, so he can't reply.
Oh, no. Yeah, military wife pog medal. It's what are the percentage of Gen X white women that have a Beth t-shirt?
They're
but
fatter
also,
than you think.
Yeah, but also listen to Five Finger Death Punch while their old man, while husband is being deployed to Germany.
We had a metal band called Military Wife. Oh boy.
Oh my god, nice.
That band got around.
Oh no, the Military Wife metal, Five Finger Death Punch. Yeah. Oh man.
Oh well, Mr.
America creates so much different chameleons of white people.
We really do. We're we really know how to make them.
Oh man.
We still make white people here. Well, Mr. Geo, what do you got going on?
Well, next week's going to be the grand Fish Tank Omnibus solo stream, and I may be planning a Twitter space with Volpe in my server. He wants to cover Byung-Chul Han's The Scent of Time, and I may be doing regular Twitter spaces with Dino World, so we're going to see what happens there. And so next week it's going to be another solo content-minded, and I have a few content-minded episodes in the can. And next week the Digital Archipelago is going to be on our channel, and hopefully we're going to get the Bizarchives on to talk about Bizarchives issue 5, and hopefully the week after that we can finally get to Nathan Barley that we've been promising. So
yes,
we'll finally do it.
Yep. But yeah, no, it'll be a good week next week. Wow, it's still going on. We're just about to wrap up Donald Trump gaming. Don't worry. But the other thing that so I had Marty Phillips on the channel. We had a great talk about his new book, Millennium. I quite enjoyed listening to Marty talk about what inspired him, why he writes, what he's working on, his views on the millennial generation. Also, I really liked his book. I gushed about it probably a little too much on it the air when I was with him, but it was a really good time. I quite enjoyed it. This Sunday, I'll be doing my little recap of the Sildings event over here at the US. I have a new Substack out sort of covering the Corruptos thread and my take on it. And then next Friday, I will be on with Mr. Hitman. He'll be on my channel, and we'll be continuing our discussion on the legacy of the Sykes-Picot Treaty and the creation of the Middle Eastern borders as we know it. So I hope that you all had a very good time. It was very good to be back, the high energy going. Here's to another 365 days of the Digital Archipelago.
Oh, yeah.
This is only year 1. We're just getting started, buddy.
We are just literally next year is going to be so insane. People are going to I predict that next year we could probably hit something, maybe not approximating AA's numbers, but definitely we'll see what happens.
Yeah. And then it's coming soon. I'll have a book or a review book for or reviewing Empire as a Way of Life by William Appleman Williams. So a fun historical foreign policy stream coming soon. And then, yeah, plenty of good stuff to come. I'll probably have a patron review for Hour of Decision because I bought a physical copy of that.
Oh, yeah.
But yes, Vince would never let a year anniversary go down like this. Buddy, we're just happy that we could get this thing going because I had to go to Dallas earlier today and I wasn't sure if we're going to even have a show. But yeah. Oh, and yes, we talked about the Cine Animations. We'll have I'm voice acting for a video game for them. It'll be a lot of fun. Yeah, and Cine's doing the artwork for it, and in the character I'm voicing is literally a frog person, so it all works out. Yes, it's been a year, and yeah, I think it's going to be a good time. And this is the start of Geo's fake cell art. You heard it here first on the Digital Archipelago, episode 48. And the fake cell arc begins. Geo loses his wizardly status.
Oh, yeah.
So with that, we will all see you next week. Take care, and God bless.
God bless. Goodbye. Too sweet.
See ya.